May 16th of the year 2167 is the day the demons laid siege to the final human stronghold. Thus, humanity had fallen. The scene cuts to someone being crushed into the wall and blood dripping from his lower half. The person, who happens to be the protagonist of the story, is Si Chen, and he is the triple S class lightning assassin. Si Chen monologues that 7 years ago, several demon kings suddenly descended upon their world, and the one who is approaching is called the demon king Lan Yue. He continues saying that they led the demon force, annihilating the human world with an oppressive might, while Lan Yue comes closer, asking if he calls himself humanity's last hope and if his entire race is nothing more than worthless trash. The Demon King then activates his claw, threatening to absorb every drop of his remaining life essence. Just then, the Demon King's claw transforms into the shape of a jaw, and he points it at Si Chen, telling him to become his food and transform into his strength. After saying that, the Demon King begins to suck out Si Chen's life force as he lifts him up in the air. Si Chen feels excruciating pain, yet he reminds himself how his little sister, his comrades, his master, and every person he holds dear have been taken away from him by these monsters. Then he channels lightning energy inside his body, thinking that if it's for their sake, then he will take him down with him. Soon after, he activates the SSS ultimate skill, Terminus Light, and a glowing aura like the sun envelops his whole body. The Demon King panics as he wonders what is going on and why he can't move. On the other side, Si Chen's body shatters into 1,000,000 pieces, and life flashes before his eyes. He remembers about his sister when she was killed by monsters, his master and his mom and dad, and thinks how they will see each other soon. As he fades away, he laments that he wasn't strong enough and wishes he was a little stronger. Meanwhile, the Demon King also perishes alongside him as he curses Si Chen and his inferior race. Si Chen's final words echo, "If only he could go back in time before that monster dungeon was discovered. If only he could have stopped that first Demon King from appearing. Then he wouldn't have lost everything so soon." Just as he thinks his life ended, he slowly opens his eyes and sees a ceiling. He finds himself lying on a small bed, and then he immediately gets up, wondering if he is not dead. He also questions where he is, and without hesitation, he walks up to the window and opens it. He becomes shocked seeing multiple students walking outside, and he happens to be inside the campus medical hospital. He feels confused as he swears the world was destroyed and asks where all these people come from. It took him a while to accept this was real, and looking at the mirror, he estimated that he had returned to his university days, 10 years ago. Just then, something manifests itself in thin air, which catches Si Chen's attention. A notification pops up telling him that the power of gluttony fusion is complete. Si Chen, on the other hand, recaps that he has gone back to 10 years ago, and it is currently May 16th of the year 2157. He feels a bit uneasy since this is 3 years before the first Demon King appears. 3 years from now, in the year 2160, the first Demon King, Wrath, will appear. It was Wrath who opened the gates of hell, and thanks to him, the rest of the Demon Kings began to appear in the human world one by one. That was the beginning of the end, and he lost everything because of it. But now he has returned, so he just has to defeat the first one that appeared, Wrath, and prevent the gates of hell from opening, and this is his chance to change everything. That being said, he doesn't know what is up with this power of gluttony screen, because it's been floating in front of him since the moment he opened his eyes. He tries to touch the screen, and it transforms to show his level and stats. Si Chen thinks about how it looks like stats in a video game, and wonders if these are his current stats. He has never seen something like this before, and in his past life, he always fought using his awakened powers. He explains that in this world, only 1 in 10,000 people can awaken, and the school he is currently attending only admits students with the potential to awaken. Unfortunately, he was never able to awaken while he was still attending the school in his past life, and for 4 whole years, he was at the bottom of the school's food chain. He speculates that's probably why he woke up in the hospital. Suddenly, the stats screen changes to another screen, making him confused. It shows him the Lightning Assassin class with total stats and skills, but Si Chen is familiar with it since it was his class title in his past life. He can faintly sense a power flowing through him, so he wonders if he inherited powers from his past life and awakened early. He decides to test out his current powers and initiates a class change which produces lightning energy all around his body. However, his change is interrupted as someone comes through the door. The visitor is revealed to be a boy named Ma Long, and he is a flower chanter E-class. Ma Long dashes towards Si Chen to see him awake and questions if he's okay. Si Chen replies that he is fine, while guessing that other people really can't see the screen. Ma Long inspects his body to see that his injuries are all gone, and reminds him that he got beat into a pulp yesterday. Meanwhile, Si Chen finally recognizes his college roommate, Ma Long. Even though he awakened while in school, he was also at the bottom of the school's ladder, and in his last life, he was brutally murdered on the third day of the Demon Lord's rampage. But now he is standing right in front of him, as real as ever. It wasn't until this moment that it finally felt like he had returned. Ma Long then suddenly recalls that tomorrow is the ranking test, so he pushes Si Chen, saying that now that he's feeling better, they should hurry back and prepare. He takes him out of the hospital, saying he knows he hasn't awakened yet, but this is super important for graduating. Later that evening, the students are seen inside the campus chatting and playing. Si Chen comments that it's been a long time since he has seen so many living people, and Ma Long warns him that they should just walk around the track. Si Chen thinks about how he has lost everything once, so if he doesn't do anything, the same hopeless future will repeat itself. Therefore, he has to come up with a plan quickly and rank up as soon as possible. In this era, there's only one way for someone who awakened to rank up, and that's by killing monsters near a dungeon. But almost all the dungeons are monopolized by the major guilds, and anyone not in a guild basically have no shot at ranking up. He looks at the screen thinking that these are his current stats, and wonders how they compare to the stats of other awakened people and monsters, since the peers are in order of strength. S, A, B, C, D, E. Most students at school remain in E-class the entire time, and only a select few talented students or those with guild connections rank up to a D-class. He can roughly guess what his rank is based on his past experience, but if he were to be evaluated, he wonders what kind of grade they would give him, and glances over to Ma Long, thinking definitely better than him. Just then, a basketball crashes on Ma Long's face at a high speed and knocks him down on the ground. Sitting above the stairs, the bullies who just did that greet Si Chen and Ma Long. The tall and bulky bully in the middle stares down at them, saying they sure recovered quickly. Ma Long stammers his words, saying they have bad luck to run into him again, but Si Chen stands tall without an ounce of fear. The tall bully tells one of his goons that I told you those two dudes could take a beating. Then he asks Si Chen and Ma Long, they know I play basketball here, so how come they didn't bring 2 cases of drinks? Ma Long instantly bows his head, saying sorry and that he'll go buy them right away. But to everyone's surprise, Si Chen steps up, saying it isn't his fault, and that the ones who should be apologizing are them. A while ago, Si Chen recognized the bully, and some of his old memories slowly came back to him. He recalls the time when the bullies tried to drown him in the sink inside the washroom. Ma Long, who was quivering in fear, tried to stop them, but the bully asked why he should do that and menacingly said that he's just helping him out. The bully continued his torture, saying he still hasn't awakened yet, so they should give him a little nudge. Soon after saying that, the bully, including his goons, laughed like they were enjoying it. After a while, Si Chen passed out, so all of them leave the washroom, saying it is getting boring. Ma Long, out of concern, checks on Si Chen, asking if he is okay, but Si Chen murmurs why they won't just leave them alone. The bullies heard him just as they were about to leave, and then the ringleader menacingly turns his head, suggesting they keep playing with him. Back to the present, Si Chen stands up to the bullies, saying the ones who should be apologizing are them. The bully becomes furious hearing Si Chen say that, while Ma Long asks what he is talking about. The name of the bully is revealed to be Gong Cheng, who is an E-class flower warrior, and he walks down the stairs activating his powers. Si Chen sharply looks at Gong Cheng, thinking that the only reason he is able to bully the weak is because his older brother is the strongest student and also the student council president, but in reality their powers are pretty mediocre. Meanwhile, the crowd outside the campus catches the wind of the situation, and they make fun of how they, Si Chen and Ma Long, are cooked. Gong Cheng, on the other hand, finally gets closer to Si Chen with his powers activated, and then he menacingly asks Si Chen about what he just said. Si Chen tells him with a firm expression to leave them alone from now on, and hearing his reply, Gong Cheng lifts his fist, yelling that he really needs to be taught another lesson. However, before Gong Cheng can make contact, Si Chen quickly punches him in his arm, and as Gong Cheng groans in pain, Si Chen just stands there, aura farming. The crowd becomes confused as they wonder if he just blocked Gong Cheng's punch. However, they know he definitely hasn't awakened yet and wonders if they are seeing things. Gong Cheng, on the other hand, gets back on his feet asking if a weakling like him, who haven't even awakened, seriously wants to challenge him. Just in that moment, Si-Chen changes his class and decides to try this on Gong Cheng. In a flash, he changes to the Lightning Assassin class, making his strength increase by twofold and speed by threefold. Ma Long becomes utterly speechless as he questions Si-Chen when he awakened. Meanwhile, Si-Chen takes a fighting stance and lightning energy surges through his whole body. Gong Cheng activates immortal demon armor and charges at Si-Chen, saying that he seems to have forgotten the taste of his killer jab. However, to his surprise, Si-Chen moves at lightning speed, instantly closing the distance and putting his fist against Gong Cheng's face. He attacks so hard that Gong Cheng's whole face caves in from the impact, and then he rolls back on the ground. The crowd, including Ma Long, becomes speechless as they witness Si-Chen sending Gong Chen flying with one punch. They wonder what happened to Si-Chen while Gong Cheng crawls on the floor, unable to believe that he actually managed to sneak up on him. Gong Cheng asks one of his goons why they are just standing there watching, but the boy freezes in terror as he sees Si-Chen menacingly walking towards them with glowing yellow eyes. Gong Cheng finally loses his mind and jumps at Si-Chen, saying he will kill him. However, Si-Chen grabs his arm, crushes it like a tin can, and prepares his counterattack, saying he is so weak. Soon after saying that, he launches a flurry of attacks, each dealing heavy damage to Gong Cheng. After his punches stop, he attacks with a strong slap to the face and sends him flying backwards. He crashes into the wall behind him, and his whole body is revealed to be covered in blood and bruises. Ma Long, who closely watches the fight, drops to his knees and he begins to stutter his words as he questions when Si-Chen got so powerful. Meanwhile, Si-Chen looks at the status screen and comes up with a few rough conclusions. First, he can switch to the Lightning Assassin job whenever, just like before, and second, even though the system says he is currently at level 1, he is still strong enough to handle the lowest level awakened, but his exact rank is still a mystery. Also, there is still another problem, and that is, he clearly knocked them out, but still his stats haven't changed at all. Then he suddenly comes up with a plan and walks up to Gong Chen with a lightning blade in his hand. Ma Long tells him to wait, asking Si-Chen what he is doing. Si-Chen, on the other hand, holds his blade on Gong Cheng's throat, and making a serious expression, he wonders if the ways to gain experience will be the same as before. As Si-Chen is about to menacingly cut Gong Cheng's neck, someone approaches them asking Si-Chen if he knows this is a school. The person is revealed to be Ling Yu, the student council vice president, and she asks Si-Chen if he doesn't think this is enough punishment even though he started this mess. She flashes a faint smile telling him that he won't try to mess with him again. Upon hearing her say that, he tosses Gong Cheng aside like trash. He wonders why are the student council members so eager to defend him, and that it's not like he was actually going to do anything to him. If he doesn't seriously intimidate dudes like this, they will just keep bothering them in the future. Gong Cheng's goons peek from a wall and they gossip about how scary Si-Chen looked just now, and decide not to mess with him in the future. Then they look at Si-Chen and Ma Long, questioning if they're not supposed to be the weakest losers in the entire school. Ling Yu, on the other hand, observes Si-Chen with interest as she hears him being the weakest loser. Back inside the dorm, Ma Long throws a fit since his roommates won't believe that Si-Chen really awakened and he is a super overpowered lightning assassin. He tells him Si-Chen pinned Gong Cheng onto the ground and beat the crap out of him, and now no one will even look them in the eye. However, his roommate Xiang Zhua, E-class flame mage, picks his ear asking where Si-Chen is at right now. Ma Long replies that he thinks he said he was gonna go for a run. Xiang Zhua pressured Ma Long asking if he is strong, then why he need to run, and since when does awakened people needs to work out. Their other roommate Xiang Yu, E-class flower chanter, says it looks like Ma Long really took a beating to his head. Xiang Zhua continues to tell him that there's a reason the four of them were assigned to the same dorm room, and that's because the four of them had the worst test scores in the entire grade. He adds that he was the fourth from last, which makes him the top dog of this dorm, and that he is the only combat class in this dorm room, a flame mage. He believes there's no way a pathetic loser like Si-Chen could ever awaken as a lightning assassin, and as for him, he might even have a shot at making it into one of the elite clubs. On the other hand, Xiang Yu says tomorrow is the final rank evaluation before their graduation exams, so everything will be clear when that happens. Elsewhere, outside an E-rank training den, some guards wait for someone to come out. Just then, someone steps out of the gate, and that person is revealed to be Gong Ting, the student council president. He then walks beside Ling Yu and tells his bodyguards that he has had enough training for today. Suddenly, he glances at someone, and that person happens to be Gong Cheng, who the protagonist beat up, so he asks if he is still waiting here. Gong Cheng calls him bro and tells him that if he doesn't do something, he won't be able to sleep tonight, and that Si Chan humiliated his own brother and has no respect for him. Gong Teng simply replies that he knows, adding that he will take care of it. Afterward, Gong Teng and Ling Yu have dinner together, where Ling Yu asks how he is planning to take care of this, to which he replies that he was simply outmatched, so that's all there is to it. However, he asks Ling Yu if Si Chan is really as strong as his brother claims. He mentions there are fewer than 10 D-rank students in the entire academy, and he has already recruited every last one of them into his club. Besides, ordinary students don't have the same opportunities to enter Monster Dungeon like he does, so ordinary awakeners can't keep up with him. On the other side, Si Chen goes out to run on a rainy day and completes running 20 kilometers with a 100-kilogram load on his back. He mentions an awakener's potential is directly linked to their physical strength, and only a powerful body can withstand and unleash the true limits of a class's power. But even this is nowhere near enough. In the year 2160, the Demon King, Wrath, emerged from a monster dungeon and descended upon the world, slaughtering countless humans. His only family, his little sister, died at his hands. It was Wrath who threw open the gates of hell, allowing the other Demon Kings to invade the human realm. So his first objective is to slay Wrath. Wrath was the catalyst for the end of the world, and since he has 3 years before his descent, he has to grow even stronger than before. Suddenly, he receives a phone call, so he checks his mobile and sees that his little sister, Xiao Yun, is calling back. He receives the call and says hello, but his little sister angrily asks why he called her so many times today and that she was at a competition today and her phone died, so she just got back to the dorm and plugged it in. She continues that if she wins this competition, they can finally pay off all that rent, while Si Chen thinks in that ruined future, he prayed to the heavens 1,000 times for everything to start over. His sister then asks if it is raining over there and why he isn't saying anything. He finally replies that it's nothing, and then, flashing a faint smile, he says it's been so long since I heard her voice. She confusingly asks what he is talking about, as they just spoke the day before yesterday and they will see each other as soon as her competition is over. After the call ends, he leans back thinking that now everything has begun anew. He decides to do 3 more laps, vowing that he has to grow stronger as fast as humanly possible to protect everything he holds dear. Moving on, he returns to his dorm explaining that it's been 8 hours since he returned to this era. He takes a bath, mentioning that he is finally starting to adjust to this body, and while his physical stats are still low, this body is much younger. He then wears his night outfit, thinking about addressing the most pressing issue. If he wants to level up, he has to enter a demon den, but the guild have a complete monopoly of them. Unless they're one of the elite, there's almost no chance to grow stronger. So how is he supposed to track down any monsters? He closes his eyes thinking about the power of gluttony and what it is. As soon as he falls asleep, the system initializes something, and after it is completed, it initiates Glutton System. Si Chan is suddenly thrown into another dimension, but he quickly regains his composure and lands on the ground perfectly. After landing, he looks around his surroundings and finds himself in a desolate land, with only a tower standing in front of him. He wonders where he is since he was just asleep earlier. He looked at the massive tower stretching into the dark purple sky. Low growling sounds come from the darkness. Large pale monsters with skull heads and glowing blue eyes emerge from the water. A system identifies them as E-rank death hounds. The hounds surround Si Chan baring their teeth. Yellow lightning begins to spark around Si Chan's right hand. He watches the monsters as his powers activate, saying, Loading switching class. Si-Chen realizes he is inside a demon lair. Si-Chen completes his class switch to become a lightning assassin. His hair is messy and his eyes glow with a bright yellow light. Electricity sparks all over his body. 3 death hounds lunge at him at the same time. Si-Chen moves with extreme speed and slashes through the monsters with his hands. One hound's skull head shatters into small pieces upon impact. A digital notification appears showing that he obtains 3 death forced items. Si-Chen thinks to himself that these E-rank monsters are very easy to defeat. He watches as 4 separate experience point notifications show plus 52 EXP. A large glowing level up banner appears above his head. Si-Chen's status updates show he is now level 2. He realizes that this place allows him to gain experience and increase his power quickly. He views his digital status window. He is level 2 and all his stats have increased by 5 points. He smiles and realizes he has found a dungeon he can raid by himself. A large boss monster appears behind him. It is a massive hound with a skull for a head and red glowing eyes. The monster opens his mouth to reveal sharp teeth. Si-Chen turns around and attacks with yellow electricity. He slashes through the monster's neck, causing blood to spray across the screen. A notification shows that he earns 320 experience points from the kill. A glowing level up banner appears. Si-Chen is now level 3. A victory screen displays his loot: 18 Death Force Fangs and 1 Death Force Crystal. Si-Chen checks his stats again. His speed has increased to 330. He notes that boss monsters provide much more experience than common monsters. He is pleased with how quickly he is becoming stronger. He stands over the body of the defeated boss monster. A red system window appears above the hound's head. A text in the window says, "Devourable." Si-Chen looks at the screen with surprise. He wonders if this is the true power of his gluttony system. He reaches out his right hand toward the corpse. A bright red and white light erupts from his palm. A massive red energy vortex forms above the monster and begins to pull the body inside. Si-Chen clenches his fist as the red energy swirls around him. A digital message appears that says, "Finished." A card showing the boss monster appears in front of him. The card grants him a new ability called Frost Physique. This ability provides immunity to cold and increases all resistances in low temperatures. Si-Chen is shocked to see that the entire monster has been absorbed into a single card. He holds a glowing blue digital card in his hand. He looks at it with a serious expression. He realizes that he can absorb defeated enemies and turn them into new classes for himself. This is the Demon King, Lanu. Every person is born with only one class and specific weaknesses. This is an unchangeable law of their world. However, Si-Chen now holds 2 digital cards: Lightning Assassin and Frost Cloud Warrior. He possesses 2 classes at the same time. He looks up and realizes that if he continues to devour monsters, he can obtain infinite classes. Si-Chen looks at the massive thorny tower in the distance. He wonders why he is given this unique power and what the purpose of the demonic tower is. He suddenly stops as he feels a heavy pressure. The monster appears inside a large burst of purple flames. The monster carries a massive sword on its back. He speaks, saying it has been waiting for Si-Chen for a long time. The government's ranking system for warriors ranges from E rank up to S rank. A vision of the past shows Si-Chen being thrown through the air by a powerful force. He is covered in blood and groaning in pain. He remembers that reaching S rank in his previous life nearly kills him. Si-Chen is tired and breathes heavily. He holds a glowing yellow lightning sword in his hand. He realizes his power level is only D rank. The monster stands in a sea of red liquid. The monster is an S rank boss with 2 large purple blades. Si-Chen is confused because the monster knows his name. The monster attacks with a large curved blade. Si-Chen moves quickly to avoid the hit. The monster hits Si-Chen in the chest and Si-Chen yells in pain. Si-Chen lies face down on the red surface. The monster looks down at Si-Chen and asks if he is still struggling. Si-Chen is heavily injured. He looks at the monster and thinks that it wants him to submit. The monster asks Si-Chen to stay and guard the tower. It calls this a rare opportunity. Si-Chen looks at the monster with a determined expression. He says he will never stay in this place. Suddenly, a purple energy blade slashes through the air. A large amount of blood sprays from Si-Chen's shoulder. He looks down at his wound in shock. The monster becomes angry. He points his purple sword at him. He says he has been patient because Si-Chen is the only one who can enter this lair. Ghostly skulls erupt from the red water all around them, as Si-Chen stands alone as the purple light fills the sky. Digital messages on the screen show the monster's strength and stamina increasing. Massive rocks begin to lift off the ground and float in the air around the entity. The monster looks at Si-Chen and gives him an ultimatum: stay or be crushed into a pulp. Si-Chen grits his teeth and declares that he chooses to kill the monster. Si-Chen transforms into a streak of yellow light and lunges forward with incredible speed. The monster swings its large purple blades, calling Si-Chen's actions ridiculous. Rocks shatter as Si-Chen and the monster clash in the center of the wasteland. Si-Chen watches the monster carefully during their exchange. He analyzes the monster's combat patterns. He knows that the monster has a 0.4 second wind-up time before every swing of its purple blades. Si-Chen observes the angle of the monster's wrist to predict the path of the attack. He leaps into the air and dodges the large glowing blade. Si-Chen identifies another opening. He sees that the monster has a 0.2 second recovery lag after it strikes. He determines that the monster is defeated
defenseless during this short moment. Si-Chen focuses his yellow electricity and lunges forward. He thrusts his yellow electricity-infused hand directly into the center of the monster's chest. A massive explosion of yellow electricity erupts as he attempts to pierce the monster's heart. A digital notification appears above the monster saying, "Status paralyzed." Si-Chen knows he cannot kill an S-rank enemy yet. He decides to use the paralysis to escape. He activates a skill called Lightning God, which surrounds his body in bright yellow electricity and increases his speed 10 times. He runs toward a small point of light in the distance. He believes the light is the exit to the lair. Si-Chen leaps through the air, but the light suddenly disappears. He lands on the red ground in shock. A large explosion of dark purple energy erupts behind him. The monster reappears from the smoke. The monster tells Si-Chen that the exit is an illusion. It reveals that this location is not actually a demon lair. The monster reveals its true form as the Purgatory Rakshasa, an S-rank 1-star warrior. The Rakshasa looks at Si-Chen and tells him that he is the one who can bring hope. Si-Chen stares back with wide eyes. He recognizes the monster's form. He remembers that Demon King Lan Yu has the same appearance in his previous life.
In his flashback, the battlefield is filled with bright orange explosions and streaks of yellow lightning. During the final battle of his past life, the enemy switches between many powerful classes easily. A third monster appears as a green vine creature with multiple glowing red eyes. Finally, a blindingly bright light appears in the shape of a person with many glowing orbs behind its head. The Rakshasa has the same large horns, skeletal chest, and glowing blue energy. Si-Chen realizes he is facing a direct form of the greatest demon he ever knew. He realizes that this entire world exists inside his own body because of the power of gluttony. The Rakshasa smiles and praises Si-Chen's intelligence. He tells Si-Chen that he is worthy of the tower's secrets. A golden key with a large red jewel appears in the air. A system box identifies it as the SSS rank key of the void. The description says it is the only way to open the demonic tower. The Rakshasa holds the key in his clawed hand. The Rakshasa explains that the former demon king, Lan Yu, devours many powerful demons in the past. He reveals that the strongest of those demons are currently sealed inside the tower. The Purgatory Rakshasa offers him a golden key. He takes the key of the void while asking why the monster is choosing to help him. The Rakshasa explains his motive. He says that the other demon kings slaughter his entire race to satisfy their greed. He states he has waited an eternity for a chance at revenge. He looks at Si-Chen and says that another mysterious person is correct about him being the only hope. Si-Chen looks confused and asks who the monster's talking about. The Rakshasa points toward the massive dark power in the distance. He tells Si-Chen that all the answers he seeks are hidden inside. Suddenly, the Rakshasa begins to glow with a brilliant blue and white light. He starts to dissolve into glowing particles. He tells Si-Chen to take his power and use it to make the Demon Kings pay. It tells Si-Chen he must become unstoppable and open the demonic tower. It warns him that the demons inside are vicious and will not be easy to defeat. A dark silhouette of several Demon Kings appears in a red void. The Rakshasa tells him he must conquer and devour every one of them to reach the top of the world. The monster's head breaks into small glowing pieces. Its last few fragments float in the air. The Rakshasa says that only a person with strong resolve is worthy of its power. Si-Chen stands on the red surface as the monster's energy floats in the air. He raises his hand to absorb the purple light. A large notification flashes. Devouring leveled up. Si-Chen is surrounded by bright yellow energy. His level increases to 10. A victory screen appears showing he obtains 2 items called Rakshasa's Underworld Bone. Si-Chen looks down at his fist and says he will carry the monster's will. A digital message says Devouring complete. A card for the Purgatory Rakshasa appears. It shows the monster is a star warrior with skills called Bone Grip Ruin and Triple Gravity Strike. Sen says he will make his enemies pay in blood. Back in his dormitory, a window with bright sunlight shining through. A loud voice tells everyone to wake up and get up. Sin sits up in his bunk and looks toward the floor. His roommates get dressed in the background. He looks at his hands and chest, noting that all his injuries from the previous night have vanished. He wonders if the battle is just a dream. He opens his system window. It shows he is now level 10. All his base stats have increased to 150. The Purgatory Rakshasa card and other loot are visible in his inventory. Si-Chen realizes he gains 9 levels in one night. He contemplates what his current rank would be in the government system. His roommate, Shangzhou, walks over and leans towards Si-Chen. Shangzhou has a mocking smile and mentions that Ma Long calls Si-Chen a powerhouse. Ma Long stands nearby looking nervous. Shangzhou glares at Si-Chen and asks if he's trying to take over as a top student in the dorm. Si-Chen stares back as Shangzhou tells them the rank test is about to start and leaves. After that, they walk down the campus stairs while eating bread.
He explains to the group that each rank is divided into low, mid, and high tiers. A digital chart appears showing that while most students are in the low E tier, the peak rank among current students is mid D tier. Shangzhou claims he is in the mid E tier and is stronger than 10 low-tier students. Malong turns to Si-chan and encourages him to aim for D rank to intimidate our rivals. They arrive at a large outdoor plaza where a giant screen announces the National Awakener University official rank test ceremony. A large crowd of students in uniforms has already gathered. In the hallway, two aggressive students shove a smaller boy against the wall. Malong recognizes them as Gong Cheng's followers and suggests staying away. The two bullies suddenly begin to sweat and look very afraid. They bow their heads low to the ground and call him Big Brother Sin. The roommates, Shangzhou and Malong, watch this with wide eyes and open mouths. Shangzhou is shocked and realizes that Malong's stories about Si-chen's power might be true. Si-chen continues walking calmly and does not look back at the bowing students. Suddenly, a man with blue-gray hair named Jang Zhen approaches Si-chen. Text identifies him as a student council officer. Jang smiles mockingly and mentions the incident Si-chen had with Gong Cheng. He reminds Si-chen that Gong Cheng is the younger brother of the student council president, Gong Ting. Malong and Shangzhou hide behind a nearby wall. They explain that Jang Zhen is a D-rank powerhouse and the president's assistant. They're worried that he is now targeting Si-chen. Jang leans very close to Si-chen's ear. He tells him that he can smell the scent of a true powerhouse from a mile away. Then he insults Si-chen, saying he only smells like a permanent bottom feeder.
Si-chen looks at Jiang Yan and asks if he's a dog. Jiang Yan's face turns bright red with anger as he screams at Si-chen. His eyes are wide and his teeth are clenched as he demands to know what Si-chen says. Just as the tension peaks, Gong Ting steps forward and tells him to stop. He explains that he has investigated the fight. He admits that his brother Gong King is at fault and deserves the consequences. Si-chen and Gong Tang share a long, silent stare. Both look very serious as they observe each other. In the main stage of the National Awakener University, a man announces that the assessments are about to begin. He instructs his students to proceed to the stage in order of their ID numbers. On the other side, the silhouettes of two people are seen standing in a high-rise office. They look out of a large window at the ceremony below, wondering if any interesting students will appear this time. Ling Yu sips tea from a white porcelain cup and looks ahead with a calm smile. 1 hour passes at the National Awakener University. The announcer calls for the next student, Shangzhou. Malong stands in the crowd and cheers with his arm raised. Shangzhou looks nervous but determined as he walks toward the glowing blue portal on the stage. Shangzhou steps through the light and enters a dark room. Thick black wires hang from the ceiling and connect to a mechanical heart in the center. This is the magical core. The eye on the core is closed. The assessment requires a student to hit this core with their full power so it can absorb the energy. Shangzhou clenches his teeth and yells loudly. He raises his hands as a large ball of orange fire forms above him. He shoots a powerful beam of fire directly at the mechanical eye. A massive explosion occurs and the room fills with bright light. It makes a loud buzzing sound. A digital screen shows the E for the current rank. The scientist confirms the student is E rank mid-tier. In the crowd, Malong shouts with excitement. He says the main event is starting. Then the screen shows a new category for potential. White digital lines flash and move across the blue display and stop to form the letter C. A final summary box appears. It lists the current rank as E rank, mid-tier, and the max potential as C rank. Shangzhou is disappointed that his rank does not improve. He sits on the stone steps and puts his head in his hands. Malong puts a hand on his shoulder to comfort him. He says they will likely have even worse scores than him. The assessment results for the roommates appear on the screen. Shang Yi and Mao Long are both E-rank low-tier with C-rank potential. Shangzhou is E-rank mid-tier with C-rank potential. All three students look dejected. Suddenly, the screen flashes with a new result. A student achieves D-rank with B-rank potential. The three roommates stare at the screen with wide eyes and open mouths. Some time passes. Jiang Yan walks out of the blue assessment portal. He's laughing and looks very confident. The screen shows his result. D-rank low-tier with A-rank potential. The roommates look even more upset. They note that 8 students had already reached D-rank today. 2 scientists look at a digital tablet. They're surprised because there are many talented students this year. Usually, only 2 or 3 students reach D-rank during the ceremony. The announcer calls for the next student, Gong Ting. The student council president walks toward the stage. The crowd watches closely as it is finally his turn to enter the portal. They call him the heir to a powerful guild and the top student. Rumors say he reaches D-rank 2 years ago. The students wonder if he will break the school record. Inside the dark room, the mechanical heart thumps loudly. Its blue eye is wide open. Gong Ting witches his hand toward the core.
He decides to hold back some of his power. He wants to save his full strength for the graduation battle to make a bigger impression. Even while holding back, he plans to stay at the top of the school. Gang Ting's eye suddenly glows with a bright orange light. Outside, the digital screen flickers with white and yellow energy. The scientist with the mustache looks shocked as he watches the colors change. The screen finally stops and displays the results. Gang Ting is ranked as a high-tier D rank. His potential is an S rank. The crowd is stunned by the high numbers on the board. The crowd is cheering and screaming loudly. They raise their arms in the air. Zheng Yan has his mouth wide open and shouts for the president. People say Gang Ting is the first person in the school's history with S-rank potential. Ma Long looks very shocked and clenches his fists. Si Chen, standing nearby, is calm. The scientists on stage discuss the results. They decide to report this news to the higher-ups immediately. An S-rank potential is very rare and will be protected by the government. Gang Ting walks out of the portal area. The students around him clap and cheer. High up in a skyscraper, the headmaster asks Ling Yu if she comes to watch Gang Ting. She looks out the window and says she does not come just for him. She states she is more interested in Si Chen's results than Gang Ting. The announcer calls Si Chen for his rank assessment.
Zhang Jian leans in close and laughs mockingly at Si Chen. He tells him to make his dorm look good and calls his roommates a group of losers. Mao Long looks angry and shouts back at the bully, telling him to wait and see. Si Chen walks toward the glowing blue portal without saying a word. He enters the dark testing chamber where the mechanical heart hangs from the ceiling. The core's single eye opens wide. Si Chen reaches his hand toward it, his eyes glowing with red light. The graduation combat examination. This test uses 10-member teams. The team that takes first place joins the Imperial Guild. This guild is the most prestigious in the nation. Zhang Jian introduces a new student named Yan Lin to Gang Ting. Yan Lin is a low-tier D rank. Their team now has 9 students who are all D rank. They plan to add Gang Chang to complete the group. Gang Ting looks confident as his teammates cheer for him nearby. Mao Long and the other roommates look small and dejected. Mao Long looks at his watch with a worried expression. He notes that Si Chen has been inside the portal for a long time with no results. Other students walk past and mock Si Chen, calling him trash. They believe he is too weak to even register a rank. Zhang Jian tells Gang Ting that their team is full and they should go to karaoke. Gang Ting agrees and begins to walk away. Suddenly, the digital screen on the stage begins to flicker with white lines. The letter D appears on the screen. Mao Long and the roommates stare at the board with wide eyes and open mouths. They are completely shocked by the result. Mao Long shouts with joy and points at the results. Gang Ting looks surprised while Zhang Jian stares with wide eyes and an open mouth. The board confirms Si Chen is a high-tier D rank. Inside the room, the mechanical core thumps violently and drips with sweat. A blue system message appears. It states that the core has an abnormality. The system asks the student to repeat the test because the results might be wrong. Si Chen views his digital stat screen. Every category is at 150 points. He realizes his regular body is equal to a high-tier D rank. He decides to test his weakest class first. A class change loading screen appears. Si Chen transforms into the Greyhound King. A white bone mass covers half of his face and his right eye glows red. The rank on the screen outside changes again. It flickers and then displays mid-tier C rank. The students in the crowd scream and hold their heads in disbelief. Zhang Jian yells that the machine must be broken. The scientists sweat and wonder if there is a system error. The mechanical core inside the room thumps even harder. Si Chen realizes his other classes will be even stronger than C rank. He triggers another class change. He becomes the Abyssal Fiend. He now has red horns and glowing blue eyes. Purple energy swirls around his body. The mechanical core thumps faster and drips with sweat. Outside, a massive purple storm forms in the sky. Clouds swirl in a large circle and lightning flashes. The roommates huddle together in fear. They believe an earth-shattering monster has been born. The digital screen on the stage begins to glitch with colorful lines. A large yellow S appears under the potential rank. The mustache scientist screams in shock. He asks if there is another S-ranked student in the school. Gang Ting looks toward the stage with a worried face. A red warning sign flashes on the screen. It says System Error.
A message states that the system cannot determine the rank because the power is too high. Zhang Jian screams with his eyes wide and his mouth open. Suddenly, the testing room explodes with a giant boom. Fire and blue energy fill the stage. The two scientists run toward the smoke in a panic. They shout that the core is overloading and they must check for danger. Si-chan's eyes glow with a bright cyan light as he activates the skill. Green digital hexagons appear over the heads of the surrounding students, identifying them as E rank. He looks at Gong Ting and sees a pink hexagon indicating mid-tier C rank. Si-chan notes that the president is also hiding his true power. The scientists announce that the testing assessments are suspended and will continue tomorrow. Mao Long and Shang Zuo are very excited and praise Si-chan for being a genius. However, Zhang Jian approaches them in a rage. He screams at Si-chan, waving his arms and getting very close to his face. He blames Si-chan for breaking the machine and wasting the student council's time. Si-chan clenches his fist as yellow electricity begins to spark around his hand. He considers attacking Zhang Jian. Gong Ting intervenes and tells Zhang Jian to stop being rude. Gong Ting then turns to Si-chan and personally invites him to join his elite team for the graduation combat examination.
Zhang Yan is frustrated because the team is already full. He realizes he will have to remove another member to make room for Si-chen. He reaches out and places a hand on Si-chen's shoulder to welcome him. Si-chen quickly slaps the hand away and says he is not interested in joining. Gong Ting and Zhang Yan are stunned by the rejection. Zhang Yan shouts that their team is the strongest in the entire school. Si-chen looks back and tells Zhang Yan that he is too loud and demands that they never bother him again. Zhang Yan screams with anger and a small flame comes out of his mouth. Students whisper that he is brave for rejecting the student council president. Si-chen walks away with a calm look. Ma Lung and the other roommates hide nearby, looking surprised by Si-chen's actions. Gong Ting stands still and watches Si-chen leave. Headmaster Yuan Lung and Ling Yu watch from a large window in a high-rise building. Ling Yu smiles and says the situation is becoming interesting. She states that Gong Ting is born into a wealthy family and that Si-chan's rejection is a declaration of war. Gong Ting looks down at the ground. He wonders if the power assessment is actually correct. Zhang Yan stands next to him and looks very angry. He offers to fight Si-chen to teach him a lesson. Gong Ting looks at him with a stern face and asks if he thinks he's a petty person. Gong Ting then turns away and tells the team he is no longer in the mood for karaoke. He tells Zhang Yan that his future actions are not his responsibility. Zhang Yan smiles broadly. He is happy to have permission to act. 10 minutes later, a silver-haired student tells Zhang Yan that Si-chen has left the school to go home. Zhang Yan crushes a blue soda can with his foot. He looks very excited to ambush Si-chen off campus. Si-chen walks along a fence with white earbuds in his ears. He looks calm as he remembers the past. A flashback shows a group of warriors standing before a giant glowing pink eye. This is the monster Wrath. Massive tan tentacles with multiple red eyes emerge from the ground and destroy the guild. Si-chen explains that Wrath eventually descends upon the human world. Back in the present, Si-chen stands on a cracked street. He has a plan to find Wrath's location, but he needs a large amount of money to begin. He arrives at a large classical-style white building with a sign that reads Mythal Monster Exchange. He enters the Mythal Monster Exchange building. He stands in a room filled with axes, shields, and swords. He places several sharp monster fangs on the service counter. A clerk looks at the fangs with confusion. Another girl clerk named Miss Lee identifies them as Greyhound fangs. The male clerk looks annoyed and dismissive. He explains that the exchange only deals with high-end goods for powerful warriors. He calls the E-rank fangs junk and walks away to the back of the shop. He tells Miss Lee to handle the rest of the order. Si-chan looks at his phone and sees a notification for 18,000. He says this is enough money to pay his rent. Si-chan then raises his hand. Pink digital squares and purple light form in his palm. He pulls a massive, jagged purple sword out of the air. She stares at the glowing weapon. She believes the great sword is a rare A-rank item. The clerk mocks Miss Lee, stating that A-rank weapons are worth millions and very rare. Suddenly, a man named Ching Shi enters the room. He looks at the weapon and tells clerk that the equipment is not A-rank or B-rank. He identifies it as an S-rank piece of equipment from the Abyssal Lance. The clerk is terrified. His face turns dark, his eyes bulge, and he screams in shock. Qingxi quickly walks over to Si-chen and clasps his hand in a firm handshake. He tells Si-chen it is an honor to have his business and invites him to the VIP lounge. Si-chen looks at Qingxi calmly and realizes he is the leader of the Mythal Guild. In the VIP lounge, they sit on ornate green couches with gold trim. Jing-Chi asks how much Si-Chen wants for the weapon. Si-Chen looks at him with red eyes and says 1 million. Jing-Chi is stunned and explains that the sword is worth tens of millions. Si-Chen explains that he only wants to use the sword as collateral for a loan. He promises to pay the million back in 1 month. Jing-Chi is impressed by the student's wisdom and confidence. Si-Chen sits on a luxury couch and sips from a small cup. Jing-Chi watches him and thinks that he is not an ordinary man. Si-Chen offers to repay the loan in 1 month with 10% interest. Jing-Chi tells Miss Lee to step outside so they can speak privately. Jing-Chi adjusts his glasses and smiles. He identifies Si-Chen as a student from the National Awakener University. He explains that the school's graduation exam is in 1 month and the prize is 1 million. He notes that the amount and the date perfectly match Si-Chen's repayment plan. Jing-Chi realizes Si-Chen is in urgent need of money. He makes a new offer. He tells Si-Chen he will loan him 1.5 million in cash immediately. He says there will be 0 interest for the first month. Jing-Chi stands up and reaches his hand out to Si-Chen. He says he wants to be friends. Si-Chen listens silently as Jing-Chi promises to keep their discussion confidential. Jing-Chi smiles and asks Si-Chen to consider his exchange facility for all future trades. Si-Chen observes the guild leader and is impressed by his ability to analyze the situation. He decides that he needs trustworthy allies to help him eliminate the Demon King, Wrath. The two men shake hands in the center of the bright office. Jing-Chi places his hand on a magic scroll and a yellow circular seal glows with electricity. A notification on Si-Chen's phone confirms that 1.5 million has been transferred to his account. Jing-Chi asks what weapon Si-Chen will use for the graduation exam now that his S-rank sword is being used as collateral. He offers to lend Si-Chen A-rank or B-rank equipment from the shop. Si-Chen says there's no need for a loan. He raises his left hand and pink digital squares appear in the air. He summons a second purple and gray greatsword that is identical to the first one. Si-Chen holds the glowing weapon calmly. Jing-Chi and his assistants are shown screaming and gasping in total disbelief. Si-Chen walks out of the store while Jing-Chi promotes Miss Lee to supervisor for her good service. Si-Chen takes a yellow taxi to the Chuncheon County long-distance bus terminal. He stands outside the large building. A flashback shows him in his past life as a non-awakened worker struggling to pay rent. His sister Se-yoon comforts him as they look at a bank balance of only $15.60. Se-yoon is shown looking at an acceptance letter from the International Central Art Institute before tearing it into pieces. She cries and says she wants to stay near her brother. In the present, Si-Chen waits by the fence until he hears a loud shout of "Bro!" He turns his head as someone runs toward him. Si-Chen hugs his sister very tightly. She looks shocked and wide-eyed. Si-Chen smiles gently while hugging his sister Se-yoon. Se-yoon looks annoyed and punches him in the chest. She asks if he is acting strange because of a girl. Si-Chen laughs and picks up her large yellow suitcase. They walk together past the fence under a bright sky. Se-yoon talks excitedly while Si-Chen watches her with a calm smile. He vows to protect her in this new life. The scene shifts to a dark alleyway. Chang Zhen stands in the shadows with several masked men behind him. He looks at a map of the area and points to the path Si-Chen takes to go home. He tells his group to hide and wait for the right moment to attack. He remembers Si-Chen telling him to be quiet. Chang Zhen clenches his teeth and says he will destroy Si-Chen so he cannot take the graduation exam. Zhang Jian's face turns a dark blue as he pulls out a glowing, jagged dagger. He calls Si-Chen a poser and laughs. In the open street, Si-Chen and Si-yoon are walking home together. Si-yoon drinks from a small carton with a cow on it. She asks if he is stressed about the graduation test. She tells him to pull himself together. Si-yoon then starts singing a song about believing in herself. Si-Chen looks at his sister and thinks about how men form emotional walls. They continue walking home together. In a dark alley nearby, Zhang Jian and 2 masked followers watch them. Zhang Jian laughs and says it is a lucky day because the alley has no cameras. Si-Chen suddenly narrows his eyes. He smells the scent of the student council members hiding ahead. He looks toward the dark corner of the street and sees their silhouettes. Si-Chen reaches into his pocket and takes out 2 wireless white earbuds. He gently places the earbuds into his sister's ears. He tells her he has been listening to this song lately. Si-yoon closes her eyes and listens to the music. She says music can show a person's mental state. Si-Chen walks in front of her. His eyes glow with a bright blue light. Zhang Jian and a group of masked men walk down the dark street. Blue digital hexagons appear over their heads, showing Zhang Jian is a D-rank warrior and the others are E-rank. Si-yoon continues to listen to the song. Si-chan remembers losing his sister in the year 2160. He is reborn in the year 2167. He thinks about how he has finally been reunited with his family after 7 years. Si-chan's face turns red with rage. Yellow lightning sparks around his head and body. He glares at the approaching attackers with glowing eyes and clenched teeth. Si-chan moves with incredible speed, leaving streaks of yellow lightning behind him. He lunges at the man and delivers a powerful kick to one man's face. The second attacker looks on with a terrified expression. Si-yun continues to walk with her eyes closed, listening to the music through her earbuds. Si-chan moves through the crowd of enemies, punching and kicking multiple men at the same time. He dodges a swing from a wooden club and sends an attacker flying backward with a kick. He grabs an attacker's arm and snaps the bone. The man screams in agony. Si-chan then delivers a powerful punch to the man's face. The impact creates a massive explosion with the word boom. They sweat and tremble while asking how Si-chan is so powerful. He continues to move through the alley, punching and kicking the attackers. Zhang Jian screams in rage and lunges towards Si-chan with a jagged knife. He delivers a powerful electricity-infused punch directly into Zhang Jian's face. He crashes into the pavement, creating a massive cloud of dust and an explosion sound effect. Si-chan stands over the unconscious bleeding bully. Si-chan's eyes glow with a bright red light as he looks down at Zhang Jian and tells him that he clearly warns him never to bother him again. He holds a jagged knife to Zhang Jian's throat. He tells him to shut up and threatens to kill him if he makes a sound. Zhang Jian realizes that Si-chan is not lying and truly intends to kill him. Si-chan stands over the bodies of the defeated gang members scattered across the alley. He tells Zhang Jian to remember every word he says. He warns the group that he does not care what happens to them, but they must never bother him again. He specifically states that if they ever threaten his sister or even appear near her, he will make them disappear forever. Si-yun is still listening to the music through the earbuds. She begins to cry as she hears the lyrics. She wonders why the song makes her feel so sad and lonely. She feels as though her brother has experienced great suffering in the time they were apart. Si-chan stands on the street and hands a small red box to Si-yun. She opens the box and finds a shining golden pen inside. She looks at the gifts with surprise. Si-chan looks at her with a calm smile, but his clenched fist is covered in blood. In the alley, Zhang Jian and his followers lie on the ground. They are badly injured and cry out for an ambulance. Later at home, Si-yun uses the golden pen to draw in the air. A glowing pink fish made of light appears and floats around the room. Si-chan sits at a small wooden table and eats a bowl of ramen. He tells Si-yun that he has already paid the rent for the entire year. Si-chan smiles and tells her that he found a good part-time job. Si-chan sits at the table with a gentle smile on his face. Si-yun looks at him with an affectionate expression and places her hand on his shoulder. They share a happy moment together in their home. The scene then transitions to Gong Ting standing alone, silhouetted against the glowing water and swimming fish. The director of the employment office approaches Gong Ting to discuss the recent assessment. Gong Xuan looks at the fish through his glasses and confirms that Si-chan is indeed a C-rank awakener. He points out that Si-chan is now the only student in the university with a higher rank than Gong Ting. Gong Xuan mentions that there is a vacancy that needs to be filled. Gong Ting tells his uncle not to worry and claims he did not use his full strength during the ranking test. Gong Ting vows to prove that he is truly the strongest student. It is 2-3 at the National Awakener University male dormitory. Si-chan stands in the shower with water dripping off his shoulders. He reflects on the future. He thinks about the golden trophy and $1 million prize money for the graduation exam. He also remembers his new partnership with the guild leader Qing Shi. Later, Si-chan lies in his bunk bed with his eyes closed, preparing to sleep. As he sleeps, the system message, "Gluttony System Activated," flashes on the screen. Si-chan suddenly finds himself back in the red wasteland. He stands before the massive, thorny demonic tower that reaches into the purple clouds. He looks at his updated status. He is now level 10 and ranked as a mid-tier C Awakener. He looks at the SSS-ranked Key of the Void glowing in his hand. He wonders what the interior of the demonic tower looks like. He approaches the massive stone gates and holds the key out. A blinding white and purple light erupts as the gates open. A giant swirling vortex of purple energy fills the doorway. Si-chan walks through the portal and finds himself in a new world. The area is called the Fallen Star Wastes. Suddenly, Si-chan feels immense pressure. He is forced down onto his hands and knees, struggling to breathe. He groans in pain as he realizes the gravity in this location is 10 times stronger than on Earth. A purple beast called the Phantom Lion appears on the ridge behind him. The monster is a B-ranked star warrior with glowing white eyes. Scene struggles against the 10G gravity, but manages to trigger a class switch. He becomes a level 10 lightning assassin. A yellow lightning blade forms in his hand. He leaps forward with his blade raised. He attempts to strike the monster's neck. A digital box appears with the word miss in large letters. The screen also notes that the vital hit and paralysis both failed. Sichan's eyes widened in surprise. The phantom lion counters immediately. It lunges at Sichan and slams him into the rocky ground with its paws. Sichan realizes the strength of the monsters in this tower. He decides to switch his class to the Purgatory Rakshasa. A digital card shows his new stats and skills as a star warrior. He uses the heavy environment to increase his power. He begins stacking gravity to multiply the force of his attack. The percentages on the screen rise from 200 to 600%. His punch becomes 60 times more powerful. Sichan shouts and lunges toward the phantom lion. The lion opens its mouth as Sichan shouts and lunges forward, activating his super heavy mode. A massive pillar of purple and white energy erupts from his fist, shattering the ground into thousands of pieces. The impact creates a giant circular crater in the fallen star wastes. Sichan lies in the center of the cracked ground, breathing heavily. A notification appears showing that he earned 12,000 experience points. Another banner flashes, announcing he has reached level 11. He explains that each star on his class cards acts as a strength multiplier. His Purgatory Rakshasa class has 11 stars, while his Lightning Assassin has 9. He realizes his classes are breaking through the B-rank power limits. Sichan stands over the glowing purple remains of the phantom lion. The system identifies the monster as devourable. He reaches out and absorbs the energy into his hand. In the distance, a tall gate made of purple light appears against the starry sky. Suddenly, a small dark vortex opens in the distance as several pairs of glowing white eyes appear inside the black hole. 4 more phantom lions leap out of the portal at the same time. Sichan realizes that the powerful monster he just defeated with all his might was actually just a small common mob. One monster strikes Sichan with its claws, causing blood to spray. Then dark silhouettes show the monsters biting and clawing at Sichan's body. A text box appears with Raksasa's warning. Once the door opens, what will welcome you will be endless pain. He suddenly wakes up in a bed, gasping and clutching his chest. He is covered in sweat and looks terrified. He sits up in the dark room and stares at the floor. He reflects on the intense physical pain from his dream. He looks at his hand and clenches it tightly. He states that there are no shortcuts to becoming stronger. In the Grand Auditorium on Friday the 20th of May, 2157, about the graduation combat examination, Gong Kuan sits in a front row seat, drinking from a metal flask. The auditorium is full of students in uniforms. Several students are shown talking and whispering to each other. They discuss rumors that guild representatives are coming to scout for talent. Sichan sits silently among the crowd. He listens as the other students talk about the high expectations for this year's results. Gong Kuan speaks to the students from a podium. The students raise their wrists to check their displays. A blue list appears in the air, showing the team assignments. Zhang Zuo, Ma Long, Zhang Yu, and Sichan are all officially ranked as low E rank. Ma Long screams in total shock. He looks at Sichan and asks how his rank can be so low. After the assessment, nearby students point at Sichan and laugh. They mock him and call him a loser. Sichan stares at his wrist display with a calm expression. Gong Teng watches him from a distance with narrowed eyes. He clasps his hands together and smiles. He plans to teach the students a lesson and ensure the opponents have no chance to resist during the exam. The students rush across the floor to find teammates. A large group surrounds Gong Teng, shouting for his attention. They beg him to let them join his elite team. One girl with pink hair yells about her healer class. A man with a headband shouts that he will be the president's dog. Gong Teng remains silent and ignores the noise. One member of the student council tells the crowd they are too loud and only have room for one more person. Half an hour passes. Several groups of students stand together. Their wristbands glow with green light, and a digital message says, "Team formed." Si Chen and his 3 roommates stand alone. They look at their wrists and realize they only have 4 members. Ma Long looks angry and sweats. He says the rules require 5 people and a high D-rank leader. He believes the school is targeting their dorm. Chicken stares ahead and realizes that more team members cause more monsters to appear. Si-Chen understands that the system rewards larger teams with higher scores, but also higher danger. He stands with his small group to face the final assessment. Ma-Long, Xin Yu, and Si-Chen are all labeled as low E rank. A student from another group calls out to Xingzhou. He tells Xingzhou to join their team because they only need one more person. He warns Xingzhou that staying with the 3 trash students will make him fail the graduation assessment. Si-Chen realizes his group is about to be abandoned by the rest of the school. Xingzhou looks down for a moment and refuses the offer, stating that his dorm roommates agree to stay together. The other students laugh and point at them, calling them the loser team. Ma-Long looks at a large list showing team statuses. Most of the slots are filled with green checkmarks. He sweats and points at the screen, shouting that almost all teams are already formed. He notes that there are no strong D-rank students left to join them. Si-Chen turns his head and his eyes begin to glow with a bright cyan light as he activates his new skill. Gong Xuan sits alone in a dark office, plotting to protect Gong Ting's reputation by manipulating the assessment data. In the grand auditorium, Si-Chen stands up and triggers his powers. A class switch notification appears and massive bolts of yellow lightning erupt from his body. His eyes glow with a bright, intense gold light. The director and the scientists are staring at the display of power. Ma-Long points at Si-Chen and shouts in disbelief. Si-Chen stands in the center of the room surrounded by electricity that cracks against the floor. He explains that school tradition allows students to initiate a direct challenge to display their true strength. Si-Chen glares at Gong Ting, who looks back with a cold gaze. Si-Chen knows that defeating the school's top student is the only way to prove his rank and force others to team up with him for the final exam. Ling Yu stands in the doorway and calls out to Si-Chen. She walks toward him and asks if his team is still missing members. She offers to join his team, mentioning that she was already a D student in middle school. Ma-Long looks very happy and shouts with excitement. The surrounding students whisper about Ling Yu being a genius from her previous school. Director Gong Xuan stands up and yells at Ling Yu. He points a finger and tells her she is not qualified for the assessment. He says she has never taken a rank test at this university and has no official report. He claims her participation would go against the school regulations. Suddenly, Principal Yuan Long appears behind him. The principal is surrounded by bright purple energy and streaks of light. He agrees with the director's statement. Gong Xuan looks back in shock and begins to sweat heavily. He realizes the principal is hinting at him and protecting Si-Chen. Gong Xuan looks down and trembles, calling the principal an old fox in his mind. The principal speaks from the stage and announces a change in the rules. He says that teams with fewer than 5 members or teams without a D-rank leader are now allowed to register. Si-Chen and his roommates join hands. Their green wristbands glow and a digital team form notification appears in the air. The roommates cheer loudly and name Si-Chen the captain of the squad. The headmaster and Ling Yu observe Si-Chen from a distance. A scientist looks at his handheld device and is shocked by how quickly Si-Chen's team submitted their choice. The surrounding students scream and look terrified as they see the selection on the main screen. Ma-Long and the other roommates panic, waving their hands and shouting for Si-Chen to cancel the registration. Si-Chen remains perfectly still and silent. He looks at his glowing wrist display with a serious expression. The school holds the graduation battle examination. Students form teams to go into a real dungeon. Students earn points for killing small monsters and the boss. They also get points for finishing the test in less than 1 hour. An E-rank dungeon has a higher score multiplier than an F-rank dungeon. The maximum possible score is 100 points. The winning team receives an offer from the Imperial Guild. The best student gets a prize of 1 million yuan. 2 students look at a digital tablet and seem nervous. One student has freckles and the other student sweats. They say the highest score in school history is 90 points. They think a team needs at least 3 strong D-rank students to survive an E-rank dungeon. Ma-Long sits with his large elite team. They look very confident. A notification appears on the screen.
A student with glasses looks at the display in shock. He tells the crowd that a team has already chosen their dungeon. He zooms in on the screen and realizes it is Si Chen's team. The display shows 3 difficulty levels, F, E, and D. Si Chen's profile picture is inside the D rank box. The student is terrified because no student has ever beaten a D rank dungeon before. Ma Long grabs Si Chen's arm and screams in his face, asking him if he knows what he just did.
Zhang Zuo sits on the floor crying and holding his head in his hands. He is horrified to be on the same team as Si Chen. A notification appears on a student's wrist device. It asks for confirmation to join a D-rank dungeon. Mei Long sweats heavily and looks at the screen. He leans towards Si Chen and shouts, asking if he has fully considered the danger of a D-rank dungeon. Si Chen remains calm and looks straight. He simply states that he has thought this through. A message flashes as the choice is submitted. The main display screen updates to show 2 profiles under the D-rank difficulty, Gangtang and Sen. A pink confirmation window appears stating that all team members have confirmed the selection. A system announcement confirms that Team Gangtang has also successfully submitted their registration. The students in the auditorium scream and cheer loudly. The student with glasses has his mouth wide open in shock. The crowd shouts that the ceremony will be very entertaining this year. Gangtang sits in his seat with his arms crossed and his eyes closed. A female student on his team smirks and looks towards Si Chen's group. She mocks them for trying to act tough. Gangtang's teammates laugh and point at Si Chen's group. They claim Si Chen is only looking for attention and that his team will abandon him. Mei Long looks at Si Chen from the side. He notices a powerful aura surrounding his friend. He remembers that Si Chen used to be very weak and dependent on others. Mei Long looks determined behind his glasses. He shouts that he will stay with Si Chen until the end. He raises his arm and presses a glowing green confirm button on his wrist device. Zhang Zuo also raises his arm and presses the confirm button. He looks exhausted. He states that the difficulty of the dungeon does not matter because they are already in last place. All members of the team have now accepted the D-rank assessment. A system message announces that Team Si Chen has submitted their registration successfully. Si Chen stands in the center of the auditorium with his 3 roommates. Si Chen looks down with a serious expression and tells his team that he is sorry. He explains that he chose the high-difficulty D-rank dungeon specifically to earn the MVP title. Si Chen looks at his roommates and tells them they are aiming for the top score together. Then Gangting stands at the top looking down at Si Chen. He shouts that there can only be one strongest student in the university. Ling Yu watches from the side. She notes that she has never seen Gangting look so angry or determined before. The battle between the 2 students has finally become public as they glare at each other from across the room. Headmaster Yuan Long looks on with a small, knowing smile. Ling Yu looks down thoughtfully and states that Si Chen choosing a D-rank dungeon is overconfident. F rank is 1.5x, E rank is 2x, and D rank is a massive 3x with a maximum score of 150 points. A red warning sign flashes under the D rank section. Ling Yu believes Si Chen's team of 4 is not strong enough for this choice. Yuan Long notes that there is only 1 month left until the battle examination. Combat simulation room at 22:45. Inside, elite students wearing high-tech visors are shown training against digital monsters. Blue energy and red explosions fill the room as they practice their skills in a controlled environment. Yuan Long hopes that Si Chen's team can at least put on a decent performance. In the school stadium, Si Chen stands calmly while his 3 roommates are bent over, vomiting on the ground and stairs. There are only 17 days remaining until the examination begins. Mei Long is covered in sweat and exhausted. He asks Si Chen why they are doing physical exercises instead of using the school's monster simulator. Si Chen tells them that simulation training is not real. He explains that students will feel intense fear when they enter a real dungeon for the first time. Sen says that physical instincts will determine their fate, not theories drilled into the brain. He tells his roommates that they are training for endurance, power, and reaction speed to heighten those instincts. He notes that the benefits of school simulations are very small. He explains that only privileged people with high status have access to real dungeons for training. Gong Ting uses a bright yellow beam of energy to slice a large white monster into 2 pieces. He explains that rich students are born with power that others can only hope to have. Si Chen says that the graduation exam is their only chance to join the Imperial Guild and surpass the elite students. Mei Long looks at Si Chen with wide eyes. Si Chen clenches his jaw and his red eyes glow brightly. He promises his team that they will absolutely win the competition. 15 days before the exam, Sichen enters the Starfell wastelands inside the Tower of Darkness. He jumps through the air and fights a pack of purple phantom lions. A monster bites him on the chest, and another strikes him with a claw. 10 days before the exam, Sichen leads his team in a long run on the school track. His roommates look very tired, and one falls face down on the grass. Inside the tower, Sichen strikes a lion with his lightning power. At the same time, Gong Ting trains by slicing through enemies with a sword. 5 days before the exam, Sichen does push-ups with a stack of heavy weights on his back. His roommates watch and count. 3 days remain, and Gong Ting stands calmly in a field of fire and ash. 2 days before the test, Sichen stands on a pile of dead monsters in the starry wasteland. A system screen shows that he has reached level 16. Finally, only 1 day remains before the graduation exam begins. Sichen has blood on his face, and his eyes glow bright yellow and say the battle has now started. On June 17, 2011, at 1:57, it is the day of the graduation battle examination. Sichen pulls on a black glove. He stands with his 3 roommates in a long corridor. They look more muscular and confident than before. A loud announcement says the exam has started. Blue light flashes behind 3 dark silhouettes on a screen. On the other side of the administration building, Headmaster Yuan Long shakes hands with a man wearing a brown coat and glasses. The man's name is Gong Lin. He is the leader of the Imperial Guild and the father of Gong Ting. A group of students watches from a balcony above. They look shocked to see such a powerful person on campus. A white car stops in front of the school building. Guards in black suits stand near the car. A man with pink hair steps out of the vehicle. He is Carl Cavendish, the vice chairman of the Global Guild Federation. He wears a long gray coat and adjusts his sleeve. Students on a balcony watch him and scream in shock. They cannot believe a high-ranking official is at their school. They explain that the Guild Federation is the most powerful organization in the world. Carl Cavendish walks toward the entrance with a woman. The woman is Sigrid, the Secretary General of the Federation. Inside a control room, Director Gong Xuan sits behind a desk. He looks at a large wall of video screens showing different areas of the school. Sigrid walks through a hallway with Principal Yuan Long and other staff members. The principal has a slight smile as he leads the guests. They walk past rows of monitors to observe the graduation examination. Many people follow behind the high-ranking leaders as they enter the viewing area. Students face dangerous monsters inside the graduation dungeons. A student uses a blue energy blade to strike a large water serpent called Ling Yao. In a different area, a giant sandworm with sharp teeth erupts from the water near 2 students. Inside a dark cave, several stag spiders crawl across the walls and ceiling. A student with glasses looks up and trembles with fear. In the control room, Director Gong Xuan watches the video screens. He explains that instructors are standing by at the gates to intervene if a student is in danger. A giant spider looms over a student who has fallen to the ground. The student screams and presses the button on his glowing wrist device. A red notification says dropped. As he withdraws from the exam, he and his teammates are instantly teleported out of the dungeon in a flash of red light. Secretary General Sigrid watches the monitors. She notes that only 2 teams remain in the difficult D-rank dungeon. She says she is looking forward to seeing their performance. Director Gong Xuan watches the monitor. He believes the students will withdraw from the dungeon quickly. The team enters the D-rank dungeon named Cloudwood Summit. A creature crouches on a large frozen tree branch. It is a wraith-wing monkey, a D-rank monster with gray fur and long claws. Sichen looks alert as snow falls around him. He tells his teammates to stay on guard. 3 monkeys fly down from the trees to attack. Sichen moves with extreme speed. He creates 3 large slashes of blue energy in the air. The monsters are hit instantly and fall to the ground with a loud thud. Blood stains the white snow around their bodies. Ma Long sits in the snow and looks up in disbelief. Shang Zuo is also shocked. He realizes that Sichen just defeated 3 D-rank monsters by himself. Sichen stands over a dead monster while yellow electricity sparks around his body and the small yellow blade in his hand. Sichen's eyes glow with a bright yellow light. His 3 teammates stand behind him. He tells his team that their current strength is not enough to handle the enemies. He tells them to stay back and protect themselves. He then lunges forward as a large bolt of yellow electricity strikes the frozen ground. He shouts for them to leave the rest of the fight to him. A student on the ground yells for the others to watch out. Another teammate slides across the ice and screams. One of Sichen's teammates is thrown backward by an impact. Xiang Zuo finally realizes why Sichen made them practice reaction speed and explosive power during their training. He understands that Si-Chen never actually expected the team to help him fight the monsters. He concludes that the physical training was only meant to give the roommates a way to protect themselves and survive. He thinks about how he always considered himself the boss of their dormitory. He feels humiliated because he now has to rely entirely on Si-Chen to carry him through the exam so he can graduate. In the background, Si-Chen moves with incredible speed through the snow. He uses sharp yellow lightning blades to slice through a white furry monster, his fast and violent attack against the remaining enemies. Giant white bat monsters fly through the snowy sky. They have human faces and open their mouths to roar. Many yellow lightning bolts strike the monsters from all sides. The electricity slices through their wings and bodies. Xiang Zuo says that as long as Si-Chen is their leader, they will surely win the graduation exam. He believes in Si-Chen's strength completely. He does not doubt their victory anymore. Si-Chen's teammate watches him and thinks Si-Chen is too strong for a regular student. He believes he's a battle-hardened warrior. In the snowy valley, many yellow lightning bolts strike the small dark monsters. The monsters fall from the sky as blood sprays out. Xiang Zuo asks himself when Si-Chen became so reliable. He feels that he has been left far behind by Si-Chen's great power, a monster falling from snow. One student shouts a warning that another monster is attacking from the rear. The student raises his flaming arms to block the attack. He catches the monster's limbs as sparks fly from the impact. He calls out to Xiang Yu and Ma Long. He tells them that they cannot continue to act like dead weights. He declares that they should not rely entirely on Si-Chen to win the battle. Ma Long and Xiang Yu look at each other. They realize that this exam belongs to them just as much as it belongs to Si-Chen. Xiang Zuo shouts with a wide-open mouth and declares that it is their graduation assessment too. Ma Long reaches out with his right hand. A bright green light shines from his palm. He agrees with Xiang Zuo's words. Ma Long stands firmly in the snow and activates a skill called Flora Chant Vine Lock. Many long dark vines erupt from his glowing green hand and spread across the area. He yells for the monsters to taste my power. The vines lunge through the air and wrap tightly around the white monster's head and neck. The monster screams as it tears through the dark vines and breaks free. Xiang Zuo is thrown backward by a sudden blast of light and energy. He looks at the monster and his hand glows with a bright green light. He shouts that the monster broke through his trap instantly. Ma Long activates a new skill called Cloud Chant Frost Breeze. A wave of cold blue air hits the monster and begins to freeze its body in blocks of ice. Ma Long reaches out with a glowing blue hand and tells Xiang Yu that the monster is now vulnerable. He yells for them to attack together. Xiang Yu clenches his right fist, which glows with a powerful green aura. He looks at the frozen beast and says that the monster will not be able to escape this time. Ma Long and Xiang Yu combine their powers to trap the enemy. They use a combo skill called Frost Breeze and Vine Lock. The white monster is encased in large blocks of ice and wrapped tightly in thick green vines. Ma Long and Xiang Yu look toward their teammate and shout for Xiang Zuo to attack now. Xiang Zuo is the team's nuclear mage, runs forward and holds a ball of swirling orange fire in his right hand. He pulls his arm back and throws a massive fire projectile at the trapped monster. He yells for the monster to taste my power. A large title identifies the move as a burst flame bullet. The giant ball of fire streaks through the air toward the frozen beast with great force. The massive fireball hits the monster directly. The monster is engulfed in flames and its white fur begins to burn. He crouches low and creates 3 smaller glowing fire bullets around his body. He shoots all 3 projectiles at the same time. He shouts that the beast is much more tanky than he expected. The fire bullets streak through the air and hit the monster's chest and wings. Each hit creates a new explosion. Xiang Yu reaches out his hand as green light glows from his palm. He shouts that I can no longer hold the monster back. Next to him, Ma Long looks very stressed as blue energy sparks around his hand. He grits his teeth and yells that he has reached his limit. High above them, Xiang Zuo jumps into the air against a dark red sky. He holds a massive swirling sphere of orange and white fire above his head. He shouts that this is my final attack. His eyes glow with a bright red light. He opens his mouth wide and screams that this is my final attack. Xiang Zuo uses his ultimate skill called Converged Burst Flame Bullet. He falls from the red sky toward the target. A massive explosion of fire and orange light fills the screen, and the impact shakes the ground. A small drone states that the team successfully killed a ghost bat monster. The 3 roommates lie on the ground covered in black smoke and dust. They look very tired, but they are smiling.
Ma Long shouts that they actually did it. Xiang Zul says they managed to take down a D-ranked monster. Si Chen stands nearby behind the tree and watches his friends with a calm expression. The three roommates lie on the snowy ground, looking up at the sky. A notification appears above a dead monster. It shows they have collected a ghost bat monkey fingerbone. One of the teammates asks Si Chen if he saw their victory. Zhang Zul breathes heavily but has a wide smile on his face. He tells Si Chen that the battle was very easy for them. Si Chen looks at his friends and tells them that they did a good job. Behind him, the bodies of dead monsters are draped over the branches of a leafless tree. A final system message appears from the drone. It congratulates the team and announces that every monster within the Devil's Cave has been killed. Director Gong Xuan stares at the monitor with his mouth wide open in total shock. He's sweating and asks, how is it possible for trash students to win? He says these students have zero combat experience. He's confused because they killed a D-ranked monster that is much stronger than their official level. A screen shows the dead monster through a live camera feed. Gung Sing Lin and Headmaster Yuan Long watch the footage silently. Carl Cavendish sits in a large chair and smiles. He says the young man is performing excellently. Carl looks closely at Si Chen's face and remarks that the boy looks very much like an old acquaintance.
Carl Cavendish smiles while looking at the monitor. He repeats Si Chen's name and says that he remembers him now. Gong Xuan looks toward the screen and sweats. He suddenly points his hand forward and laughs loudly. He tells everyone in the room to look at the display. A screen appears and states that the other team in the Dan dungeon is moving very fast. They are already halfway through the dungeon. A live video feed shows Gong Tang fighting in a bright blue area. Sigrid notes that the coordination of the student teams is flawless. She compares them to a professional guild raid team. Carl Cavendish smiles while looking at the screen. He finds the situation interesting and says a graduating class is impressive. Director Gong Xuan smirks and states that the battle has only just begun. He promises that the real show is yet to come. Inside the dark dungeon, a high-risk D-ranked dungeon called the Gloomvine Grotto and a group of monsters called Noxious Toadstools rush forward. They are identified as D-rank flower soldiers. These creatures have large red mushroom heads and giant mouths filled with sharp teeth. She is a flower chancer using a skill called Withering Hymn. The icons indicate that the monster's strength, stamina, and speed are all decreasing. The blonde girl continues playing her guitar to weaken the enemies. A boy with short hair claps his hands together and shouts for his team to gather the monsters. He is a star mage using a skill called Astral Fusion. A large beam of purple energy traps a mushroom monster in the air. Another teammate calls out to the captain. Gong Ting looks very serious, and the bright light flashes from his hand with a shing sound. He strikes the monster with extreme force. A massive explosion of orange fire and red blood fills the area as the monster is torn apart by the captain's final attack. He performs a powerful strike called Searing Fracture. He is a C-rank flame soldier. He holds the handle of his sword as black energy flows around him. One teammate laughs and says that the monsters in this exam are the same ones they fought during their training sessions. Another teammate adds that fighting these creatures has become second nature to them now. They look very confident as they stand in the middle of the flames. His teammate smiles and says that the graduation exam is rigged by the Gong family. He thinks life is easy when you know the right people. He believes his team will become champions very soon. Gong Ting walks forward into a dark forest. Gong Cheng waves his hand and shouts to the team. He tells them it is time to fight the dungeon boss. On the other side, in the snowy field, Si Chen walks through the heavy snow with his teammates. They move forward together in the middle of the storm. The team is currently inside a high-risk D-rank dungeon. The location is called Cloudwood Summit's Peak. The mountain is covered in deep white snow and blue ice. One teammate speaks, saying he cannot believe they successfully made it to the top of a D-rank dungeon. A large title appears. It identifies the upcoming enemy as a Frost Wraith Ape. The monster is classified as a D-rank Cloud Soldier. A giant white ape sits in the snow and eats a smaller creature. The ape tears the body apart with its teeth, blood covering the ground and the monster's fur. Ma Long looks terrified and sweats heavily. He asks if the creature is the monster lord. His teammate says that one slap from the ape would kill him many times. He whispers that he is very scared. The giant white ape has glowing red eyes and deep scars on his face. It stops eating and looks directly toward our teammates. Ma Long sees the monster staring at them. He throws his hands up in the air and screams in terror. He yells that the monster is looking right at them. The giant ape monster leaps down from above with great speed. It screams as it lunges toward the group.
Si Chen's two teammates scream and run away in terror. Si Chen remains standing still and looks up at the massive creature. Suddenly, he delivers a heavy kick directly into the ape's face. Blood sprays from the monster's face as it is struck with extreme force. The giant white ape monster slams into the snowy ground with a loud crash. A bright blue trail of light follows the force of the impact. The monster is thrown backward and rolls across the deep snow. Si Chen stays in a low combat stance as yellow lightning crackles around his body. He then delivers a fast strike with a glowing yellow blade. The blade slices through the monster's jaw and blood sprays into the air. Si Chen turns and runs forward with extreme speed, and several sharp yellow cuts cut through the monster's large body as the ape is sliced into many pieces. Ma Long stares at Si Chen with wide eyes and is in total disbelief, and asks if Si Chen really killed the giant monster so easily. His roommate stands behind him looking shocked. Digital system messages appear in the air. They state that Si Chen obtained 1 Frost Wraith 8 fur and earned 200 experience points. Si Chen stands calmly in the falling snow as his team approaches him. Si Chen thinks to himself he finds it strange that killing the lord of a D-rank dungeon gives such a small amount of experience. He also thinks the loot he received was very poor. Suddenly, a teammate shouts with excitement. They tell the others to look at a large collection of mana crystals. One of the teammates shouts to the others to come and look at a discovery. He points toward a large, jagged tree trunk sticking out of the deep snow. Si Chen watches as his roommates run toward the stump. Inside the hollow center of the tree, there is a large cluster of glowing crystals. The teammate says the giant monster must have hidden these mana crystals inside the tree. He notices the large size of the gems and believes they are at least mid-tier mana crystals. The roommates lean into the hollow and look at the treasure with wide eyes and happy smiles. They laugh and say that if they sell these crystals, they will be set for life. Si Chen suddenly shouts for his team to hold on immediately as his hand reaches out to touch one of the glowing blue mana crystals. Suddenly, a massive explosion of cold energy erupts from the center of the tree. The roommates look terrified as they are blown backward by the intense force. Si Chen stands in the middle of the bright blue light with a serious expression. A powerful skill called Arctic Nova is activated by a cloud mage. The entire area is instantly covered in giant sharp ice spikes that erupt from the ground. The snowy mountain is now filled with jagged blue ice and thick white mist. Giant ice spikes cover the entire mountain landscape. One of Si Chen's teammates is trapped behind the sharp pillars of ice. Near him, a device sits on the frozen ground. The device makes a buzzing sound. In the monitoring room, the camera feed for Si Chen's team turns black and begins to glitch. A warning icon appears on the screen with the text, Team Si Chen, no signal. Director Gong Xuan watches the monitor and says that the team fell directly into a trap. He explains that high-level monsters are very intelligent. He insults the students, calling them losers and the burden on society. He declares that this event marks the end of the graduation exam for Si Chen and his team. Carl states that the students' lives are now in clear danger. Gong Xuan agrees immediately and says that saving the students is our top priority. He suggests that the guild rescue team should step in now. He notes that this would mean ending the graduation exam for Si Chen and his team. Many screens are dark or display warning icons. Carl looks at the monitors and tells everyone to give the team a little bit more time. Principal Young Long explains that the students' wristbands are constantly monitoring their health. He states that all their vital signs are currently stable. He also points out that the neural data shows the students do not want to quit the exam. He tells the other leaders that the decision to withdraw should be left to the students. Gong Ling stands next to the principal and remains silent. Back to the snowy mountain, Ma Long lets out a very loud sneeze and shouts. He sits on the frozen ground surrounded by giant ice spikes. He shakes from the intense cold and hugs his arms to stay warm. Behind him, his teammates are trapped inside large blocks of ice. He mentions that he's thankful to be a Cloud-class Awakener. He explains that his class gives him resistance to the cold. He says without this power, he would be frozen solid like his friends. A dark shadow falls over the area, and the creepy laugh comes from the mist. The monster is revealed to be a giant warrior made of ice and dark metal. It has long white hair and a bright blue glowing core in its chest. The monster towers over the snowy landscape. It looks down at Ma Long and laughs loudly while the snow falls around them. Ma Long looks looks up at the giant creature and asks if this is the true lord of the dungeon.
He explains that he recognizes the monster from the school's monster manual. He identifies it as a frostbound Lich King, which is a C-rank cloud mage. He says this type of monster is an elemental mage that can manipulate ice. Malong explains that it uses area of effect attacks and knockback abilities to fight. He tells his team that these monsters are very cunning and enjoy torturing their prey before they kill them. He realizes that the Arctic Nova attack they just faced was actually a trap set by the boss. The Lich King stares down at the students with its empty glowing eye sockets. Malong runs across the jagged snow as the blue frostbound Lich King follows him from above. Malong looks back and realizes the monster is a rare C-rank lord. He knows he cannot defeat such a powerful enemy by himself. He tells himself that he must hurry. Suddenly, a sharp spike of ice strikes Malong's lower leg. He screams in pain as the force of the attack throws him against a frozen mountain peak. The frostbound Lich King laughs while Malong is on his hands and knees in the snow, breathing heavily. A system message warns that he has a critical injury in his lower left leg. The screen asks if he wants to withdraw from the examination. Malong looks up and refuses to quit. He reaches out his glowing hand and says he must thaw Sai-chun immediately. Malong activates his Cloud Chanter skill called Perfect Origin. This power uses purifying energy to remove debuffs from a single target. Sai-chun is shown completely trapped inside a large jagged block of ice. Malong tells himself that they still have a chance to win if he can defrost his teammate. An ice spike strikes Malong in the shoulder with a loud sound. Blood sprays into the cold air as Malong screams in pain. He falls face first into the snow. A message appears on the screen stating that his purification failed. The frostbound Lich King laughs loudly at him. The monster uses a skill called Frostbone Skewers. Many small ice shards form around the monster. Malong lies motionless on the ground. Several red warning boxes appear over him. They say his heart rate is at a critical level. They also report a serious injury in his right arm. The system asks Malong if he wants to withdraw from the examination. Malong stares at the word withdraw and thinks about his life. He remembers always running away from every challenge and struggle he ever faced. A flashback shows Malong's school. A group of students throws objects at him while he covers his head. He thinks about how he was constantly left behind, humiliated, and ignored. He says people treated him like he did not matter. In another memory, Malong runs behind Sen. He is sweating and panting, but he keeps his fists clenched. He says that they put everything on the line to reach this moment. Finally, he is screaming with intense effort. He declares that against all odds, he finally has a chance to change his life. He refuses to give up now. In the present, Malong grits his teeth and shouts that he will never give up the fight. Malong reaches his hand toward the large block of ice. A powerful green light erupts from his palm as he uses his Perfect Origin skill. He focuses a beam of bright blue energy directly at the ice, trapping Sai-chun. The frostbound Lich King stands nearby and watches him. The monster energy waves spin through the air around them. Malong reaches out his hand toward the frozen structure. A bright blue light explodes from his palm. He screams as he uses all of his remaining strength. He kneels in the deep snow and points the intense blue energy at the large spikes of ice. Suddenly, inside the ice, Sai-chun's eyes snap open. They glow with a fierce, bright yellow light as he begins to awaken. Sai-chun activates his power and breaks out of the ice with a massive explosion. Blue ice shards fly everywhere in the snowy valley. He moves with incredible speed, shown by the large word Godspeed. The frostbound Lich King looks on in total shock. Its skeletal mouth is wide open and its blue eyes glow with surprise. Sai-chun moves like a golden streak of light across the snow. He reaches Malong and catches him. Malong is very weak and covered in sweat. He looks at Sai-chun with a tired smile. He says that in the end, Sai-chun still had to break free from the ice by himself. He is relieved that Sai-chun is safe. Sai-chun looks at Malong and asks if he's going to be okay. Sai-chun responds that his injuries are not serious and that he has managed to stop the bleeding. The ground begins to shake with a loud rumble. Sai-chun explains that the monster is a C-rank cloud elemental monster lord called a frostbound Lich King. He warns Malong that it is incredibly powerful. He says they must not let the monster freeze them again. Sai-chun looks over his shoulder as the rumbling continues. Malong stares with wide eyes and looks very terrified. High in the snowy sky, the frostbound Lich King raises its arms. A massive jagged blue ice crystal forms above the monster. A title indicates the attack as Giga Frost Nova. Sai-chun stands on the edge of a snowy cliff and looks up at the giant blue light. The frostbound Lich King opens its skeletal jaw and laughs loudly. Malong looks up at the sky with wide eyes and a terrified face. He screams at how could the monster summon such a massive Frost Nova attack. He screams that it is impossible for them to dodge. A giant sphere of energy and
jagged ice shards form in the center of the snowy area. The ground rumbles violently as the spell expands. Suddenly, a massive white explosion fills the entire screen with blinding light. The force of the impact is extremely powerful. The frostbound Lich King floats in the snowy sky and laughs loudly. It looks down at the ground with glowing blue eyes to see the result of its attack. The entire valley is now covered in massive jagged blue ice spikes. Milang is thrown backward through the air with a look of total shock. Sai-chun stands in the center of a swirling blue aura of energy. He has switched his class to the Gravehound King at level 16. A system screen explains his frosty physique ability. This skill gives him full immunity to cold temperatures. It also increases all of his resistances while he's in low temperature environments. The frostbound Lich King opens its skeletal jaw wide and lets out a loud laugh. Milang sits on the snowy ground and sees that Sai-chun is now using a different type of energy. Milang is confused and asks Sai-chun what has happened to his power. He reminds Sai-chun that he is supposed to be a lightning elemental assassin. Milang begins to sweat and asks if he's a rare 1 in a million person. Sai-chun stands still as a powerful blue energy swirls around his body. Milang finally realizes that Sai-chun is a dual-class awakener who can use 2 different types of abilities at the same time. Suddenly, Sai-chun's eyes glow with a bright blue light. He tells them he is sorry for misjudging the situation. He says it is his fault that the 3 of them were put in danger. He clenches his fist tightly. Bright white light and electricity burst from his hand. He declares that the danger will end now. A message appears on the screen. It says that class change is finished. Si-chan has now become the abyssal fiend at level 16. He holds a giant glowing pink blade that makes a loud worrying sound. He looks toward the monster and says he will finish this battle immediately.
The boy with glasses is left completely speechless as he witnesses Chun's new form. Normally, an awakened can only possess a single class in their entire life, but in rare cases, some awaken with 2 classes, and they are highly sought after by every guild. Yet now he realizes the truth is even more unbelievable. Chun doesn't just have 2 classes, he has more. The first is the Lightning Elemental Assassin he already knew. The second, a Frost-type class with a skeletal mask. And now a third emanating a dark abyssal aura wielding a massive sword. Each of these classes is incredibly powerful on its own, and yet Chun possesses them all. A shockwave of blue mana exploding outward as a streak of light tears through the air. In less than a second, he's already above the Skeleton King, far too fast to follow, far too fast to react. His sword rises and energy condenses along the blade, growing denser with every heartbeat. Milan's eyes widen again. Something has changed. The suffocating pressure that once poured from the Skeleton King is gone, completely gone. For the first time, the monster hesitates, and within that hesitation, it feels something it has never known before: fear. Chun's voice slices cleanly through the silence. Star Soldier Triple Calamity Overload Mode. The blade falls for a fraction of a second. Nothing happens. Then a thin line appears across the Skeleton's King and it splits. Chun lands smoothly, one knee touching the ground, his sword embedded beside him with perfect control. Behind him, the monster's body separates mid-air before collapsing completely, bone fragments crashing down like rain. The battlefield falls silent, broken only by the echo of impact. A system notification flickers into existence. Experience gained, over 5,000. Level up. Chun is now level 17. He doesn't celebrate, he doesn't react. To him, it's just another outcome. Milan stumbles forward, his legs barely holding him up, before he drops to his knees beside the shattered skull. He stares at it, as if expecting it to move again, his voice barely escaping his lips. Of course Chun could do it. This wasn't a fight against a second-rank monster lord, this was Eraser. Behind him, Chun rises to his feet and speaks, calmly as if nothing extraordinary has happened. Aren't the others still frozen? The words hit Milan like a shock. His face drains of color as realization crashes down on him. Chung Yu. He had completely forgotten. Cursing himself, he spins and sprints toward them without another thought. Meanwhile, Chun walks quietly toward the severed head of the Skeleton King. A notification hovers in front of him, waiting. He lifts his hands and a deep red aura forms around it, dense, heavy, almost hungry. The skull begins to break apart.
not shattering but dissolving. Strands of energy peel away from it, drawn toward his palm as if being devoured. The flow continues, steadily, the energy feeding into him until nothing remains. Then it stops. Jun closes his fist. The red aura flickers once, then settles. Devouring complete. A final notification appears. New class acquired. Bone Leech King. For the first time, Chun pauses not out of hesitation, but because something unexpected follows. Another class appears. Cloud Mage. This one is different. It didn't come from the dream realm, nor from any system-triggered event. This one is real. He exhales slowly, letting the realization settle as he processes it without outward reaction. Then his gaze shifts slightly to the side. The floating robocam nearby is frozen solid, encased in ice from the earlier Arctic nova. No movement, no recording, no evidence. Everything that just happened remains hidden from the world, and with time still left on the clock, a perfect score is already guaranteed. A yellow notification suddenly flashes before him, pulling his attention back. Chun's eyes narrow slightly as he reads it. Lightning Assassin has leveled up, 1 star point gained, a rare stat increase. He studies the message for a moment, calm and composed as always, then quietly murmurs that he got a star. Nothing more, nothing less. In another dungeon, the situation couldn't be more different. Team Gaung is barely holding together. In front of them stands a D-rank boss, a massive, grotesque, man-eating plant. The battlefield is in ruins. The ground is torn apart, vines lashing through the air like blades. Thick root-like tendrils coil and strike relentlessly, dragging hunters off their feet as chaos spreads. One mage struggles desperately, barely maintaining a glowing purple chain wrapped around the monster, his voice cracking under pressure as he shouts that it's too strong. Another yells that he won't be able to hold it much longer. At the front line, an archer fires arrow after arrow from a thunderbow, but each shot lands and falls uselessly, unable to pierce the creature's defenses. The monster retaliates with violent force. Its roots slam outward, sending bodies crashing across the battlefield. One hunter hits the ground hard, gasping for breath. This isn't something they were prepared for. Their training falls apart under the pressure. Fear begins to spread. Their formation breaks. Control slips away. And then a voice cuts cleanly through the chaos. Gaung. All eyes turn towards him. He stands behind them, completely still, untouched by the panic around him. The mages stand at his back, channeling their energy into him, their mana flowing steadily into his body. Slowly, his aura begins to rise. Then it ignites. Flames coil around him, tightening and intensifying with each passing second. His eyes burn a deep, piercing red, locked on the monster with absolute focus. "That's enough," he says. He draws his sword and vanishes. The ground beneath his steps shatters as he moves. In an instant, he's appeared directly in front of the monster. No hesitation, no pause. His sword drives straight into its core. Energy gathers at the point of impact, unstable and violent, trembling with destructive force. Then he roars. Flame Soldier, saffron blade burst. The world flashes white and explodes. Flames erupt from within the monster, tearing through its body from the inside out. They don't spread outward, they consume everything from within. In mere seconds, the massive creature collapses into burning fragments, reduced to nothing. Then silence. The boss is gone. Then the team erupts. Cheers break out, voices filled with relief and disbelief. They call it insane. They call him unstoppable. Their president, their leader, their strongest. A robocam floats forward, its voice calm and mechanical as it announces the result. Dungeon cleared successfully. Total time, 35 minutes. The team freezes, then realizes what that means. They cleared a D-rank dungeon in under half an hour, with a 3 times multiplier. That's 150 points. A perfect score. A new record. Gaung calmly sheaths his sword while the team celebrates behind him. He has already moved on. Turning away, he speaks without looking back. "Let's go. Time to check the ranking." As they walk toward the exit, fully convinced of their achievement, none of them realize that something far beyond their expectations has already taken place.
In the hall, chaos lingers like a heavy shadow. Injured students are scattered across a space, wrapped in bandages, their faces pale and drained of color. Some sit in silence, staring blankly, while others struggle to steady their breathing. One student trembles uncontrollably, his voice breaking as he continues to beg the monsters for his life, unable to separate himself from the nightmare he just escaped. Nearby, a girl collapses into tears, her voice shaking as she describes just how overwhelming and terrifying the monsters were, her words spilling out between sobs. Gongshan looks over the scene and scoffs, but then his gaze shifts and stops. Off to the side of the hall sits Chun's team. Ming and the others are relaxed, sitting casually as if nothing unusual has happened. And at the center, Chun stands quietly, composed as ever. Gongshan's eyes narrow. This doesn't match what he expected at all. Still, he doesn't question it for long. Instead, he convinces himself of a simpler answer. They must have quit early. A faint smirk forms on his lips as he starts walking toward them, ready to expose what he believes is the truth. But before he can get close, a voice cuts through the hall. Gong Ying calls out to him. The sudden interruption stops Gongshan mid-step. He turns slightly annoyed, but his attention shifts as his eyes move past Chun and land on the figure standing behind him, Carl Cavendish. A slow, deliberate clap echoes through the hall, instantly drawing everyone's focus. Cavendish moves forward with complete control, his presence alone enough to silence every conversation. The air itself seems to still as he speaks, his voice calm yet filled with undeniable authority as he praises the performances witnessed today. Behind him, the principal and Gong Lin enter as well, their presence only adding to the weight of the moment. The entire hall falls silent. Gongshan's earlier arrogance disappears, replaced by excitement the moment he realizes who has arrived at the same time. Gong Ting steps forward, confidently, lifting his hand as if expecting recognition. But Cavendish doesn't even spare him a glance. He walks straight past him. The gesture is simple, but its meaning is absolute. Gong Ting's hand remains hanging in the air, his expression frozen as Cavendish continues without pause. Step by step, he approaches until he stands directly in front of Chun. Then he speaks, his tone steady as he calls Chun remarkable, and reveals the truth to everyone present. Sean's team cleared the deranged Devil's Cave in just 21 minutes. A murmur ripples through the hall. This isn't just impressive, it's something even professional teams would struggle to achieve. Gongshan's expression tightens as his earlier assumptions collapse completely, leaving no room for doubt. Yet at the center of it all, Chun's team remains steady, unaffected by the attention, and Chun himself stands as calm as ever. He acknowledges Cavendish with quiet respect, but his thoughts are already moving ahead. He knows exactly who stands before him, the vice chairman of the World Guild Alliance, one of the most powerful figures in the world. And that realization brings a question to the front of his mind. Why would someone like him come here? Cavendish studies Chun for a moment longer, as if confirming something only he can see. Then he repeats Chun's name, committing it to memory, a faint hint of approval crossing his expression. Almost as an afterthought, he turns his head toward Gong Lin and acknowledges Gong Ting's performance as well, praising his ability to lead a team through the same challenge at such a young age. Gong Lin responds with polite humility, but his gaze lingers, thoughtful and sharp, as the weight of everything that has just been revealed settles over the hall. Gong Yan's gaze shifts slowly, drifting toward his son, Gong Ting. There's clear approval in his eyes. With that, Cavendish decides it is time to leave. He turns calmly, noting that it's getting late, and begins walking out alongside the principal. As he exits, he casually remarks that discovering talents like these are like finding rare prodigies. His words remain in the air even after he is gone, leaving a quiet weight behind. A moment later, Gang Yan steps forward and clears his throat, pulling everyone back from their thoughts. The sound alone is enough to draw all attention toward him. He announces the final results of the assignment. Both teams have achieved perfect scores. A tie. For a brief second, the words simply hang there. Then their meaning settles Sean. The hall erupts. Excitement bursts from every corner. Mi Ling jumps to his feet, unable to contain himself, shouting in celebration as the realization hits him. The rest of Chun's team follows, their tension finally breaking as relief and joy take over. Even the opposing team reacts with excitement, understanding what this means for them. Entry into the Empire Guild, the direct path to the top.
But in the middle of all that celebration, one person remains completely still: Gong Ting. Gong Yan raises the stakes even further, his voice steady as he continues. Both Gong Ting and Chan will be granted core management positions within the Empire Guild, and the prize money, $1 million, will be split equally between them. This time, Chun reacts, not outwardly, but inwardly. His expression doesn't change, but his thoughts sharpen instantly. He remembered the promise he made to Chung Ki, 1 million within a month. With only half the reward, that promise becomes uncertain. 50% isn't enough, and delaying is not an option. In that instant, he reaches a clear conclusion. He will have to find another way to earn the remaining 500,000, and quickly. While Chun quietly calculates his next move, Gong Ting finally breaks his silence. He steps forward and rejects the result. In his mind, there cannot be winners. There can only be one. His eyes lock directly on Chun, filled with unwavering determination, as he demands a one-on-one tiebreaker. Shock ripples across the hall once again, cutting through the lingering excitement. Gong Yan reacts immediately, moving forward with urgency as he tries to shut it down. He insists that the assessment is already over, that its tie is the best possible outcome, and that there's no need to push things further. He assumes Chun will refuse, but Chun doesn't hesitate. He accepts. The shift is immediate. The noise fades, and the entire hall falls silent once again. Chun's calm expression remains unchanged, but his focus narrows completely. His condition is simple. If he wins, he takes the entire 1 million. Gong Ting steps forward without a second thought and accepts just as quickly. If Chun can defeat him, then he can have it all. At the far end of the hall, just as he is about to leave, Cavaniss slows his steps. He turns slightly, a faint smile forming on his face. His interest has returned.
Back in the hall, Shun and Gong Ting begin walking toward each other. Step by step, the distance between them disappears. Their eyes meet, neither willing to yield, both fully aware of what is at stake. The atmosphere tightens, growing heavier with every passing second, and as they finally stand face to face, after that, we are shown a short time skip, and we see Qingzi speaking. He looks at Shun with clear amazement and says that he originally thought Shun only had the strength to take first place. However, he never expected him to completely shatter the record with a perfect score. Shun's achievement is spread everywhere, and he's now all over the news. Qingzi admits that it seems he made a very wise decision. He tells Shun that there's no need to repay the 1.5 million anymore, and that Shun should simply consider it as his investment in him. The scene then shows Qingzi and Shun sitting across from each other. Shun appears slightly confused, as if he's been thinking deeply about something. After a moment, he firmly responds that no, a debt is still a debt, and he must repay it no matter what. He then explains that he came here today to say two important things. Hearing this, Qingzi calmly agrees and tells him to go on. Shun begins by saying that the first thing is about the repayment deadline. He respectfully asks for a 1-week extension. He explains that since the graduation assessment ended in a tie for first place, he ended up receiving 500,000 less than he had expected. Because of that, he will be participating in a one-on-one tiebreaker match with the other champion. He further reveals that this match will take place 1 week from now inside a dangerous location known as the Wild Devil's Cave, which lies just outside the school. The moment Qingzi hears this, his expression immediately changes to shock. He can hardly believe what he's hearing. In a worried and almost panicked tone, he questions them, asking if the two of them, mere students, are really planning to enter a place like the Wild Devil's Cave. He points out that neither of them has undergone any professional guild training, emphasizing just how dangerous such a place is. His voice carries clear concern, showing that he is deeply unsettled by the risk Shun is about to take. After that, Shun calmly reassures him, telling him not to worry. He confidently explains that once he wins a tiebreaker in a week, he will receive the remaining 500,000. Not only that, but he also promises to hand over all the materials he gathers from the Devil's Cave, asking Qingzi to consider it his interest for granting him the 1-week extension. Hearing this, Qingzi falls silent for a moment, deep in thought. In his mind, he can't help but feel astonished. Shun is about to enter a place as dangerous as the Wild Devil's Cave, yet he doesn't show even the slightest hint of fear. Instead, the only thing on his mind is repaying his debt and even the interest. Qingzi realizes that Shun is truly extraordinary, far beyond what he had initially imagined. Then Shun speaks again, his tone turning more serious. He says that there's one more reason he came to meet him today, something even more important. However, whatever Shun tells Qingzi next is not revealed to us. The scene deliberately hides this information, but from Qingzi's reaction, it's clear that he is completely shocked after hearing it. His expression changes drastically, leaving us with a sense of mystery about what Shun could have possibly said. The story hints that the secret will be revealed later. Soon after, the scene shifts. We are taken to the afternoon of June 17th at Qingchang County Middle School. There we see C, who looks extremely happy as she excitedly says that the final exams are finally over and summer vacation has officially begun. She checks her phone and suddenly remembers something important, that today is also the day of her brother's graduation assessment. At that moment, her attention drifts to a photo of her brother and begins recalling a memory from 4 years ago. Back then, Shun had told her with excitement that elemental potential had been detected in his body and that he had been accepted into the National Awakener University. Hearing this, in the past, C had been overjoyed. With bright, hopeful eyes, she had asked him if that meant he was going to become an Awakener just like their mother and father. Shun had smiled and confidently replied that it was true. He told her that he would join a top guild and earn a lot of money. With determination in his voice, he promised her that he would make sure she lived a better life. Shun continues speaking to his little sister with determination in his voice, telling her that maybe, just maybe, he will also be able to uncover the truth behind their mother and father's disappearance. Hearing this, the young C lights up with pure excitement and admiration. She happily praises him, saying that he's amazing and that her brother is the absolute best. With complete admiration, she declares that he will definitely become an incredibly powerful Awakener one day. Not long after that, another memory is shown. The two of them are talking again, and this time Shun wonders out loud why he still hasn't awakened yet. Despite the situation, he keeps a smile on his face and tries to stay positive, saying that it's totally fine and that it simply means he needs to keep working harder. However, behind that smile, things were not as simple as they seemed. From C's perspective, we understand the truth. After getting into the Awakener University, her brother worked harder than anyone else. He gave it everything he had. Yet in the end, he became the only one who failed to awaken. As she watched everyone around him awaken one by one, she realizes how lonely he must have felt during that time. Even so, he never showed that pain to her, always hiding his struggles behind the calm and reassuring smile. As these thoughts run through her mind, the scene transitions back to the present. C is still standing there, lost in her memories, when suddenly one of her friends arrives and calls her out. The girl excitedly asks her if she heard the news. She then reveals that the National Awakener University has produced a genius graduate this year. Both of them led their teams to achieve a perfect score. She goes on to say that even the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance personally met them and praised them highly, and now the news is spreading everywhere. According to her, their entire Qingchang County is about to become famous because of this. Then, she suddenly remembers something and asks C if her brother also studies at that same university. At that moment, a pink-haired boy walks into the scene, though his true intentions aren't clear. He greets C politely, wishing her a good afternoon. He then tells her that he's booked a penthouse private room at the Zhang building and casually asks if she will be free at 8 p.m. The narration then reveals his identity. His name is Jingdu Sen, and he's a student from Shimei-Yuzu University. Seeing this, Jae-tang is completely shocked. However, Si Young looks deeply frustrated. Without saying much, she suddenly starts walking ahead at a very fast pace, almost as if she's trying to escape her own thoughts. Watching her rush like that, Jae-tang calls out in confusion, asking why she's walking so fast. Even the pink-haired boy is left surprised by her sudden reaction. At the same time, Si is lost in her own thoughts. In her heart, she can't stop thinking about how her brother's classmates are making headlines everywhere for achieving a perfect score in their graduation assessment. Meanwhile, her own brother couldn't even manage to awaken. The thought hurts her deeply, and she feels a wave of sadness wash over her. She becomes emotional, almost on the verge of tears, thinking about how unfair it all feels. Determined to do something for him, she tells herself that she needs to hurry home and prepare a huge feast to cheer him up. In that moment, she looks both incredibly cute and heartbreakingly emotional. The scene then shifts to night. We see Shun sitting at a table filled with a variety of delicious dishes. The food looks incredibly tempting, clearly prepared with great effort. Seeing all of it, Shun is surprised and asks how she even found the time to cook so much.
However, C doesn't respond. She simply sits there quietly, her silence speaking more than words. At the same time, the television in the background is playing the evening news. The broadcast announces that earlier that morning, Doshin National Awakener University successfully concluded its graduation combat assessment. It goes on to mention that the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance, Carl Cavendish, personally visited the scene and warmly interacted with the students. Meanwhile, Si Young quietly looks at her brother and continues thinking to herself. Just as she suspected, he's forcing himself to act strong again. Failing the graduation assessment would be a massive blow to anyone, yet he isn't showing even the slightest sign of it. Watching him like this only makes her heart ache even more as she realizes how much he must be hiding behind that calm expression. After that, the news broadcast continues and a female anchor begins reporting in a clear and professional tone. She explains that this year's graduation assessment has resulted in a highly rare outcome, a dual champion situation. Two genius students each led their respective teams to achieve a perfect score. She adds that Vice Chairman Carl Cavendish highly praised the assessment in front of the media and was particularly impressed with one of the team leaders who managed to secure a perfect score. She then clearly announces the name, Shun. The moment Seong hears this, she is completely stunned. Her eyes widen in disbelief as she quickly turns towards the television. In shock, she repeats to herself that the one who achieved the perfect score is Shun. The realization hits her at once, leaving her frozen in place as emotions begin to surge within her.
Right after this, the scene abruptly shifts to a completely different location. There, we see a hunter standing with his body covered in blood marked with numerous scratches and wounds, as if he had just gone through a brutal battle. In front of him stands a man speaking in a cold, unforgiving tone. He says that he had set everything up, the stage, the opportunity, even the audience, and yet the performance was completely ruined. It is then revealed that this man is none other than Gong Teng's father, and the injured person before him is Gong Teng himself. His father continues, his voice filled with disappointment and anger. He tells Gong Teng that he didn't win. He lost to some unknown nobody. The words cut deep, especially as we see the injuries covering Gong Teng's body, blood still seeping from his wounds. Without showing any sympathy, his father declares that from now on, Gong Teng will no longer be allowed to make his own decisions. Everything has already been arranged for the upcoming combat tiebreaker that will take place in a week. He coldly states that since Gong Teng is incapable of handling it on his own, he will step in and ensure the outcome himself by any means necessary. In his eyes, there is only one acceptable result. First place can belong to no one else but the Gong family. His tone remains icy and merciless throughout, making it clear that he is willing to do whatever it takes to secure victory. Chun speaks in a calm yet observant tone, analyzing the situation carefully. It is reported that this graduation assessment produced a highly rare dual champion outcome. As he continues, his focus sharpens on the battlefield in front of him. There are always two lionesses engaging him in close combat, pressing him from the front with relentless coordination. Meanwhile, the other two remain on standby at a distance, watching, waiting for the right moment to intervene. And above all of them, the Lion King maintains the greatest distance. Despite being their lord, it never involved itself directly. It never dirties its own hands. At that very moment, the Panthers begin advancing toward him, preparing to strike. Chun reacts instantly, moving forward with incredible speed to meet them head-on. As he closes the distance, he mutters with a hint of curiosity. The abilities of this Lion King lord are very strange. Now, standing right before where the Lion King should be, he presses forward, continuing his analysis. Whenever I find an opening and attempt to attack it, in a flash he strikes down one of the Panthers effortlessly. However, just as quickly, the Lion King vanishes from its position. Chun's eyes narrow as he realizes what has happened. It reappears next to the lioness farthest away from me. The realization deepens. Their movements are not random, they're calculated. They rapidly adjust their positioning based on the situation, but their formation remains eternally unchanged. He turns his gaze toward the Lion King again, attempting to gather information through the system, but nothing appears. There is no data, no readable detail. It's as if the system itself cannot comprehend that entity. I still can't manage to hit the lord of this floor. After the intense graduation assessment battle finally comes to an end, a notification echoes in his mind. His Lightning Assassin class has gained a star. Class proficiency increased. Chun reflects on this quietly, understanding something important. By frequently using a specific class, its proficiency can indeed increase. A small but crucial realization, one that could shape the outcome of future battles. After that, he continues in a low, steady voice. But even so, as his words trail off, the scene reveals numerous panthers surrounding him from all directions, their presence tightening like a noose. The tension in the air grows heavier with each passing second. Just then, the perspective shifts, and we are shown Ling Yu, who watches everything with sharp, attentive eyes. She speaks with clear astonishment. The extent of that guy's power has increased so much in such a short period of time. Meanwhile, inside the double tower, Chun stands alone, his body crackling with intense lightning energy that continuously surges outward, illuminating the space around him. The sheer force radiating from him makes it evident that he is no longer the same as before. The scene shifts once again, revealing Carl Cavendish. With a composed demeanor, he simply says, "Good work. Eat the meat first." His tone is casual, yet carries an underlying authority. Ling Yu, however, seems to have something more on her mind. She looks at him and adds, "There is one more thing. I've recently noticed a suspicious individual as well. He made contact with you not too long ago." Carl Cavendish pauses slightly before responding, uttering a single name, Kite. Ling Yu continues, presenting the information she has gathered. These are all the reports compiled so far over the past year. It hasn't exposed any traces whatsoever. Her words imply that despite careful observation and investigation, this individual remains completely untraceable. It is then revealed that this moment takes place on the night of the graduation combat assessment, as Carl casually tastes the food in front of him. He remarks with satisfaction, "As expected, Dongshin Nation's premium Wagyu beef is the most delicious. How is progress on your end?" The scene cuts again, returning to an earlier moment when we saw Siwi. She stands there overwhelmed, her voice trembling slightly as she says, "He really made it to the top." Confusion fills her mind as she struggles to fully comprehend what she has witnessed. Lost in her thoughts, she murmurs to herself, "My silly brother." Her emotions begin to overflow, deeply moved by what she has just witnessed, unable to hold back the wave of feelings rising within her. We then see Yen at the moment she first learns about the news. Her mind is in complete turmoil as she thinks to herself, "Brother, my own brother." She can hardly believe what she's hearing. During the graduation assessment, not only did he lead his team to a perfect score, but he was even personally praised by the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance. The shock overwhelms her completely. Her eyes remain fixed on the television as the report continues. The broadcast announced that Vice Chairman Carl highly praised this assessment in front of the media, and specifically singled out one of the team leaders who achieved a perfect score for special recognition, student Chun. Hearing this, Yen is left utterly stunned. The realization hits her all at once. Her brother is the top scorer. The reporters continue, emphasizing the statement. Chairman Carl declared that student Chun's performance left a deep impression. He also expressed hope that Dongshin Nation will continue to work hard and cultivate even more outstanding talents, highlighting that the genius students each led their teams to perfect scores. Still trying to process everything, Yen turns toward her brother, her voice uncertain yet desperate for confirmation. "That Chun they just mentioned on TV, is that you, Chen?" Chun, completely calm and unfazed, casually replies, "Yeah, what's up?" The moment those words leave his mouth, the spoon slips from Yen's hand and falls, the sound echoing her shock. Her thoughts race as a chilling realization forms in her mind. They might have already noticed us. That's the end of this video. If you liked it, please don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel.